watching the VOD that are new here, I always make sure to include timestamps in the description below after the fact, so if you want to skip around for whatever wacky reason, you are more than welcome to do so. With that being said, I've been thinking a lot about this whole situation, which is sort of what we're going to get into. I also plan on doing a debate with Sinthe over whether or not we should call Vaush a PDF file, I guess you could say. Most likely we're going to be having that debate. However, I'm not 100% certain, simply because I don't know if she is going to be available within the time period that I'm streaming. Because we did agree to today, but we didn't agree to a specific time. And normally I don't stream this early. But the reason I am is because I have a class at 6 p.m. later today. So, yeah, there's that. And I also want to go over some of, I guess, some President Sunday videos, simply because people have recommended that I watch President Sunday's analysis and whatnot, which could be useful potentially. I'm not sure, but I guess in the meantime, while I wait for people to join, I guess I'll just say a bunch of words while people join, because obviously I could have one of those disgusting stream starting soon screens, but those are cringe. I don't want people to click on this and be like, oh yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to see. A stream starting soon screen for 30 minutes. It's like, no, that's dumb as shit. Why would anyone want to watch that? That's not entertaining. So instead what I do is I just talk and say a bunch of words. And then as people start to show up, we really start getting into the meat of the topic, right? Whereas this is more of like a chill discussion to get the podcast started, right? Because this is basically a podcast in a way. It's live, and it's also a podcast. Very awesome, I know. Yeah, President Sunday has been talking a lot about the Vaush stuff. So we'll get into that really soon. And then if Sinthe is available, we'll have the debate. I feel like I can't please anybody with this. Like, no matter, I feel like I have such a fucking nuanced I don't know if I'd say centrist position, but I feel like my position is so nuanced that nobody on either side is gonna fully agree with me. Like, you have, on one hand, people that are like, yeah, Vaush is completely innocent. You have people that are like, Vaush is a PDF file. And I don't think either of those things are true, right? I think Vaush definitely had some sussy shit on his PC. Like, that's undeniable. But on one hand, it was confirmed that a couple of the images were lolicon. However, if he stumbled across them on Twitter out of context, I could see why he wouldn't interpret them as such and would see them as adults, right? Because there is kind of like a blurred line there. As for the horse stuff, I feel like even though, like, in general, bestiality is not as bad as, like, pedophilia, in terms of, like, the, like, whether or not there's evidence to support that he is or isn't something, I feel like there's a lot more evidence to say that he's like a zoophile, I guess, right? Because like there's no ambiguity for like the horse images. Like, I know that like nobody takes the horse images seriously. It's like, whatever, you know, he's the silly horseman, right? But it's like, okay, if you have a problem with whatever drawn depictions of things that are problematic, whether it be drawn CP or drawn bestiality, right? Like, I feel like you probably shouldn't gloss over that, right? Like if you have a problem with drawn CP, you should probably also have an issue with drawn bestiality, right? Again, I'm somewhat agnostic on that. Like I don't have like a super strong stance. I just generally lean against it, right? And that's sort of my position. Is I lean against things like whatever. Like I generally lean against lolly, but it's like I don't have like a super strong position, right? Like it's not like the main thing that I argue about or think about or care about, right? Whereas and same thing goes for like drawn bestiality, right? Like I generally lean against it, right? I generally feel like it's wrong, right? But I don't have like a super set in stone hardcore position against it, right? Like I feel like there's like some nuance to it, right? With that being said, whether or not the horse images should or shouldn't be categorized as drawn bestiality, I feel like that's not even up for debate, right? Like it's not like once you see the HD version of the image, you can tell, okay, this isn't just like an anthropomorphic creature. This is just meant to depict a horse in a sexual way, right? Like I feel like there's no getting around that. So I feel like no matter what, like because I feel like that's the most intellectually honest position you can have, is that there's not enough evidence to conclude that Vaush is a PDF file, but the horse drawings are definitely depictions of bestiality, right? Now, what you want to do with that information is up to you, but I feel like I'm going to piss everybody off with that take. Because it's like the people that hate Vaush don't even care about the horse stuff. Even though I feel like that would be the more concrete evidence. Wait, he's a furry? No. The issue wouldn't be that he's a furry. It would be that he has he had saved images that depict horses in a sexual way, which sounds funny, but at the same time, like if you have a just by looking at the images, right? Like you might not be able to tell that the lolly was lolly, right? You might interpret it as an adult. That's entirely possible. In terms of the horse images, I feel like that's less ambiguous, right? It's not like a matter of interpret. Like you can look at it and you can tell, okay, yeah, that's clearly a horse, right? Like clearly. Did you see the images? It's 100% lolly. I saw the images and like they were definitely suspect, but I can't tell. And maybe that's just because I could just be stupid, right? And this is why I'm trying to like revise my position, whether it be making my position that I already have stronger or changing my position if it turns out that I'm wrong about some stuff, right? Like in my initial defense of Vaush stream, right? One of my arguments in his defense was that the horsecock stuff was anthropomorphic creatures. This was before I saw an HD version of the thing, so I just sort of kind of made the assumption that it was like furry stuff, because I didn't really see the HD. But once I saw the HD version, I sort of just dissociated and ignored it in the initial stream. And I feel like that was kind of shitty of me, even if it wasn't intentional. I should have addressed that. That being said, I still don't think there's conclusive evidence to say that Vaush is a PDF file. It's taken 3 streams. Yeah, because I don't like to label people as things without conclusive evidence, right? Like I'm not just gonna jump the gun, right? So if it turns out that like it, other people were correct about Vaush, that's fine. But like, I need to see evidence of that first, right? That's the most important. The evidence is what the hell he had in his wank folder. Yeah, but again, like with the lolly stuff, Vaush does have plausible deniability. Like I'll give him that, right? Like I could understand seeing the images out of context and not knowing it's lolly, right? I think that there are some people who would be able to tell and some people who wouldn't. And I mean this in good faith, okay? I'm not just saying this to defend Vaush. If I was trying to defend Vaush, I wouldn't also say, yeah, but I also think the horse stuff is evidence of zoophilia, right? Like, I genuinely did not, like, when I saw the images, I did not immediately think, yup, that right there is definitively a child, right? And because I didn't immediately think, yup, that must be a child based on the images alone, I feel like there is room for interpretation based on the images out of context, right? Again, if you go into it and you look at it and you're looking for lolly, right? Like you'll probably find it. If you're not looking for it, you might not find it, right? So I don't know. Wait, was there real children or not? No, there was not. There were no children. If there were, we'd be having an entirely different discussion right now. Like, as much as I don't like lolly, I've always disagreed with like the notion that it's on the same level as actual CP. It's not, right? Like, they're both bad, but like one is clearly worse than the other because one actually like directly harms the child that's in the CP, right? Like, they're not exactly the same. I don't know. The more I think about and research the fucking lolly stuff, the more cancerous it becomes. It's not child abuse, but if you jerk off, it's evidence of what you are into. Yeah. No, I totally agree. Like, I don't know why lolicons will die on the hill that, actually, it's not pedophilia. Okay, well, what is pedophilia? Well, it's basically just, I'd say, colloquially, it's like when an adult is attracted to a child who's much younger than them. The much younger than them part matters because obviously an 18-year-old and a 17-year-old is technically an adult and a child, but that wouldn't be pedophilia, right? But like, for instance, a 25-year-old and 12-year-old, that is an example of that, right? So what is pedophilia contingent upon, right? Well, pedophilia is an attraction, right? It's not an action, it's simply the attraction, right? And I think that we all agree that pedophilia is bad. I know that might be one of the hottest takes yet, but, you know, me being the brave warrior I am, I had to say it. And I believe that if you are attracted to drawings of characters that are clearly meant to depict somebody that's underage, somebody that is clearly not developed and prepubescent, and you're attracted to that, that is the same type of attraction, right? And if we agree that pedophilia is bad, which is the attraction, and we agree that that is pedophilia, which it is, then we can also conclude, like it would logically follow that lolicon is also bad. Now, it does get more complex than this, right? That's not the end-all be-all. I have heard arguments on the other side that aren't entirely invalid, if I'm going to be real, which is really uncomfortable. Apparently, once I did research on this, apparently it's the case that lolicon existing doesn't increase harm towards children. And I want to clarify this. I don't want this to be something that people take the wrong way, right? That doesn't mean it's good or that it should exist, right? But what this does mean is that it there's not like a solid reason for it being illegal, right? Like, I don't think that not to mention the fact that it would be unenforceable as like a law, right? Like it already is illegal in some states, I think, but like there's no really solid way of enforcing it. So I guess that's sort of like one of the main issues. Also, I just noticed there's 24 of you watching and only 3 likes. I know we just started the stream, but why is there 3 likes instead of 24? I'm just saying, you know? Smash like. Anyways, yeah, I think that Obviously, it's a paraphilia and attraction to children. Obviously, away from. Yeah, I think that it's definitely not something that should be overlooked, right? I have worked with the IWF, and lolly is not CSAM. It's very different in calling lolly CSAM. Just hurts children actually hurt by rape. Yeah, no, I agree. Like, I don't think that you should call it CSAM because like it doesn't consist of children being sexually assaulted, right? Like it's still drawn. Like I think that drawn CP is like a label that I can get behind because it's accurate, while still demonstrating that but this is still wrong, right? It's drawn, right? So it's not real, so it's not as bad, but it's still bad, right? The part that says CP doesn't just magically disappear because it says drawn, right? You get the point. Now, in terms of what was on Vaush's computer, I'm not comfortable saying that it's unambiguously lolly based on the images alone. Again, the reason that the entire evidence that people have used for it being lolly is, well, it's different for each image. So one of them is the reverse of basically the inverse version of the argument that people will make in defense of lolicon. So you know how there's like the whole meme of, well, you see, while it is true that she looks 10 and sounds 10 and acts 10, she's actually a 3,000-year-old vampire named Gormilios, right? And obviously we all know that that's like a bullshit excuse. Inversely, if somebody is attracted to a character that appears to be a fully grown adult and has a fully developed body, fully developed breasts, right? And you don't know the age canonically, I don't think that there's anything inherently wrong with being attracted to that character. You would be attracted to the characteristics that resemble adult-like features, right? And if Vaush, sees just that with no context of what the age of the character is, which is one of the images that people brought into question, then I don't think that counts, right? Simply because he would have saved the image on the basis of this looks like an adult that is drawn in hentai, right? It turns out that it's depicting a VTuber that canonically is 16, but there's no reason to believe that Vaush would have known this. The other image, I think, is more problematic, more sussy, more questionable, which is one that I don't think has a canonical age, but I believe that this one on a certain website, and I don't know how people found this, was tagged as lolly. However, I don't have reason to believe that Vaush found it from this website, firstly. He most likely found a repost of it on Twitter. Secondly, I don't know. I will say that the age is definitely ambiguous, and it's not something that I would personally be comfortable with. I am also not going to definitively state that, yes, this is definitively lolly. I don't think that would be a fair assessment. Do I think it's suspect? Yes. But based on the image alone, I could understand why somebody would interpret it as not lolly. Vaush's PR team, Femyoz, Jalen, Tipster, and Keffals. Okay, to be fair, firstly, I give a better defense than everybody else you listed, okay? Secondly, I haven't been I feel like I've been pretty nuanced, right? I think I've been pretty nuanced. Also, hello, Femboy Leo. Welcome to the stream. But I think that, in terms of me saying, okay, the horse stuff is unambiguously a drawing of bestiality, right? That's not up for interpretation. I feel like there should be enough intersubjective agreement upon that, right? That doesn't look like an anthropomorphic creature. Anyone that sees that is going to, I can't see how that wouldn't be a horse, right? Whereas I can see how, even though that, the main image that I guess I find questionable, even though I could see how that would be a child, I could also see how it would be an adult, right? And that's sort of why this whole discourse gets really complicated, is because you end up with because I mean, what lolicon is derived from is it's derived from lolly, which is essentially just a style of art, really, and complex. Con is short for complex. And essentially, lolly in of itself is not even a sexual thing. It just describes a specific style of art that depicts a youthful character, right? That's not intrinsically sexual, right? The reason that lolicon is problematic is because it takes that and it sexualizes it. It sexualizes, well, children, right? And that's, I guess, sort of the main crux of the issue. And with that being said, defining the line between lolly and not lolly is really fucking hard. See, it's a lot easier to determine whether or not someone is a pedophile based on who they interact with sexually or intend on interacting with sexually in real life, right? Because there's a single variable for the most part, and that's, I guess, the proportional age gap, right? So, for instance, if a 30-year-old dates a 15-year-old, the 30-year-old is a pedophile, and they are a child predator, right? That's unambiguous, it's clear-cut. It doesn't matter what the 15-year-old looks like. It doesn't matter if they look mature or act mature or any of that shit. None of that matters. What matters is that they are 15, right? Interestingly enough, the way we categorize it in drawings and animations is almost the inverse of that, where the canonical age matters less than the maturity, the physical appearance, etc., which I find very fascinating. See, that's why it gets very convoluted. That's not to say that there aren't clear-cut instances. There absolutely are. And in those cases, there aren't any excuses to be made. But I think that there are instances that reside within a more, I guess, gray area. And that's how I would sort of classify Vaush. Again, I don't think that the images that Vaush has saved were in good taste in the slightest, but a pedophile also isn't necessarily exclusively attracted to children. Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, I've always found the defense of, well, you see, for every one child that I'm attracted to, I'm actually attracted to 30 other people that are adults. It's like, okay, but the problem, we don't care that you're attracted to 30 other adults. We care that you're attracted to the one child. That's the problem, right? I don't know. I mean, it's a very complicated and nuanced topic that, I don't know, I sort of struggle with it because, like, there's so many different variables that go into it. Hebephilia is a weird one. I'd rather just call them like, if someone's like, well, you see officer, it's actually not pedophilia. It's hebephilia because they're a teenager. Like, I feel it's like, no, just call them a pedophile, right? Even if it's technically the wrong term, it's better to stigmatize that type of interaction, right? Because, like, hebephile, it's like, who even knows what that is? Everyone knows that pedophilia is bad, right? So we need to make it clear that, like, a 35-year-old interacting with a 15-year-old is bad, okay? It's not just hebephilia, okay? It's fucking pedophilia, okay? I don't care if it's technically incorrect because it serves more social utility to label them as a pedophile if they are a 35-year-old dating a 15-year-old, right? I don't care if it's technically incorrect or whatever, right? Again, it's mainly a matter of social utility. You are very smart, but you're also very young and immature. If the pornographic drawing looks like a child, it's pedophilia. Oh, no, I agree. But there are going to be instances in which it's harder to tell, right? Like there are going to be instances where there's a drawing where you could interpret it either way, where it looks somewhat youthful, but like you can't entirely tell. Like, is this like a petite character with large eyes, or is this a child? What is this meant to depict, right? Like, it's gonna be more I mean, hell, it's gonna be like right off the bat, it's gonna be more difficult to tell than it is in real life. And it's not even necessarily always gonna be easy to tell how old somebody is in real life. And that's easier, right? But just by looking at somebody, and this is why you should always ask the age of anybody you're interested in, because you don't always know, right? So for instance, unless they're like, it's like, okay, you're 50 and then you're whatever, you can tell that the other person's middle-aged, right? But like, you get the point, right? Because it could be the case that you see, because hell, have you ever noticed that there are some people where it's like, they quote, look like they could either be 12 or 35 at the same time? Like, that's a thing that happens, right? So ultimately what determines whether or not it's wrong to be in a relationship with that type of person isn't whether or not they look like they're 12, quote unquote, or look like they're 35, right? It's what their actual age is, right? Now, that's not to say that it's a matter of the actual age in terms of lolly, right? But it is to say that the line is not necessarily clear cut, right? It is partially a subjective determination in what a certain age demographic looks like, right? Part of that is going to be subjective to an extent, right? I have had some people say that I look like I'm 15. Some people say I look like I'm 19. Some people say I look like I'm 25, right? But in reality, in actuality, I'm 19, right? I don't think it would be fair if, let's say, a 25-year-old was attracted to me to say that they are a pedophile, because some people might say that I look like I'm 15, right? Again, this is not to say that there is any this is not to justify clear-cut examples of lolly where it's clear that it's a child, like unambiguous, right? But it is to say that I wouldn't want to be so quick to morally condemn somebody if there is any amount of plausible deniability or doubt that they would have interpreted it as a child, right? Again, but it's a Vaush. What does that have to do with anything? To be fair, that clip was part of a larger part explaining how it's still wrong. Which clip? You're only defending him because it's a Vaush? I mean, that's possible. I don't think so. But, I mean, yeah, I'm more likely to defend somebody that I have a generally positive opinion of than a negative opinion. He gets away with sexual harassment. No, I agree wholeheartedly that the whole sexual harassment thing with Poppy was wrong. Like, he was completely in the wrong. But I don't think that necessarily means he's unforgivable. He literally apologized for it. Well, it's not just that he apologized for it, right? It's that he apologized for it and that he didn't really do it again, at least not as far as I'm aware. And he did seem genuinely remorseful. Again, that's my good faith interpretation. I could be wrong, but who knows? He apologized when he saw his career was on the line. See, but that's assuming a worst case scenario, right? That's just assuming that he was completely malicious. I don't assume that of him, right? I like to be charitable. Yep, never did it again. Yeah, exactly. Like, even if technically, you know, like even if in actuality, let's say the reason he hasn't done it again is because it's bad optics or whatever, right? Like, I still am of the belief that like, you wouldn't be able to know that for certain, right? And that's sort of like the whole point of charitability, is like assuming the best in people. And that's something I try to practice myself. And I will admit, like, there have been times where I've been uncharitable towards people I either don't like or disagree with or whatever, you name it, right? And that's something that I've been working on. Again, I don't think that I think that there's a difference between labeling Vaush as completely innocent and saying that there's not enough evidence to conclude he's a PDF file. Does that make sense? I just think that there's enough reasonable doubt for me to not want to come to that conclusion, if that makes sense. Just look at how Hasan's fanbase defends his every fuck up. I mean, sure. I don't entirely disagree with that. However, I do believe that Hasan... Okay, here's the thing, is whenever Hasan fucks up, does he take accountability? The answer, of course, is no, the fuck he does not, right? Does Vaush take accountability? Usually it seems to be the case that yes, he does. Now, with the whole horse thing, the thing I have the biggest issue with, unironically, because it's unambiguously depicting bestiality, no matter how you interpret it, right? That's just what I saw, right? That's not just my interpretation, that is literally what I saw. And I'm of the belief that I don't know if I would say that he's taken accountability for that, right? Because you could argue on one hand that, well, yes, he acknowledges that the horse meme is actually real. He doesn't deny it. However, oh, wrong button. However, it's also the case that he does definitely downplay it, but so does everybody else. Is that really his fault? If even his own critics, such as Ethan Klein, literally don't give a shit about the literal drawn bestiality? I mean, I'm not sure. But these are Vaush fans the lowest of the... Okay, am I the lowest of the low? Also, I don't think that I'm blindly defending him, right? I did a little bit of that. Just a tiny amount of that. In my initial defense stream. Simply because I sometimes feel like it's good to have like almost like a YouTube lawyer, if that makes sense. The lawyer of YouTube. The defense attorney. Who's willing to create arguments in defense of fucking anybody before condemning them, right? But I feel like I'm pretty fair in terms of how I assess this, right? Like, despite being biased in favor of Vaush by default, right? I feel like the fact that I'm willing to point out that, yeah, but this is drawn bestiality. Don't give into the pressure, wait for Vaush to respond. Yeah, I mean, I think that if/when Vaush responds, and I'm sure he will, that's definitely something I'm going to go over. I think that I'd like to see what conclusions are the most logical to come to. And then if Vaush responds and then I turn out to be wrong about something, then I think that is fair. If I turn out to be right, I think that's also fair. I think this drama is mostly purity and anti-leftist opportunists. Puritan anti-leftist opportunists. Yeah, I think that that's a good portion of it, right? And that's like one of the main things that I've criticized. Like in terms of like most of the criticisms against him, like they're for the most part bullshit. Like people taking arguments he made in favor of rule utilitarianism out of context to say he's defending CP. Like all of that shit is fucking dumb. Saying that there's somehow enough evidence to conclude he definitively is a pedophile is bullshit, right? But I do think that there is some merit in like if zoophilia is simply the attraction to animals in like a sexual way. I do think that does hold merit, right? Now, what you want to do with that information, how much you want to morally condemn Vaush for that, I guess is up to you. But I think that information in of itself would be correct, right? What was the appeal of him anyway? He's funny and right about most things. Every single conversation he had is pure strawman and bad faith. I don't know. I think he's entertaining. He's charming. He's handsome, okay? Shut up. He makes good arguments. Shut the fuck up. Wait, did Too Bad actually die? R.I.P. Bozo. What a loser. Honestly, if he did, I'm not sad. Dude was a fucking freak. Wait, is it true that Too Mad actually died? Or is this a troll? If it's not a troll, I mean, I stand by what I said. He has post-mortem allegations. Damn. Thing is, fantasizing about children and animals is the lowest of the lows. Drawings are not. Plus, let's be real. Those folders were massive. Who knows what else? Well, I don't want to go based on, well, what about other stuff that might have been in the folders, right? Like, I don't, like, we can't be morally condemning somebody for something that there's no evidence of it. Yeah, okay, sure. For all we know, there could have been a real CP in there, right? But we don't have evidence of that because we don't know what the rest of what's in the folders, right? So we're not going to assume worst case scenario, right? But I would say that having those fantasies is not good, right? But I wouldn't say it's the lowest of the lows, right? Like, I'd say like actually going out and harming a child as a result of those fantasies would be the lowest of the lows, right? Like, actually going out and sexually assaulting a child or grooming a child. That's what I consider to be the lowest, right? Like, I think there's a hierarchy of how bad something is. So it's like, here, like, so like the top is like the most bad stuff. The bottom is like, it's kind of bad, right? So like, you know, it's like, whatever, like lolicon, it's a bit bad, right? It's definitely not a good thing, right? But higher than that is gonna be, talking to minors inappropriately, and higher than that is going to be like flat out sexually assaulting a minor, right? Does that make sense? Like, there's like going to be a hierarchy to it. Same person who was mates with Natty Forsyth. Well, I'm not even friends with Natty Forsyth, simply for behind the scenes reasons. But based on the evidence that was like publicly available, like I don't think that there was like enough to say that that she was like a PDF file. I do think that Natty is like a bit of a sex pest, though. Like, I think that, like, I don't think that that's, I don't know if that, I mean, based on, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how much stuff is public info, but she's definitely, you know what, we're not going to talk about Natty just because, see, that's the thing, though, is once you know behind the scenes stuff, a lot of shit changes. At least for me, at least in my own humble opinion / experience. But yeah, so I guess to sort of conclude this segment of the stream, was I wrong about Vaush in the defense stream? I mean, sort of, kind of, but not really, but sort of, maybe, potentially. Mainly about whether or not he's a zoophile. I do think that in terms of what he's attracted to, yeah, he's a zoophile. So I think I was wrong in saying that he wasn't. Do I think that he's a PDF file? I don't have enough evidence to conclude that, right? Again, I think that either way, I think this should have just been a hypocrisy issue with Vaush, rather than, quote, suddenly he's a pedo. The entire internet decided to take this to the extreme rather than common sense. Well, I don't even think it's a matter of hypocrisy either. I mean, that could be the case. Like, I don't know if he's ever taken a stance against drawn bestiality. I know he has taken one against lolicon, which is fair. But I think he'd have to like point to some sort of reason that that like drawn bestiality porn, like, I don't know what the symmetry breaker between that and drawn CP would be. So I do think that you could say that because there's not like a definitive symmetry breaker there. I mean, it's not that they're the same, right? Like, Obviously, CP is worse simply because harming children is worse, as children have a greater capacity to experience pain and trauma, right? But that's more of like that has more to do with like the magnitude of how bad something is. And this would only be a plausible explanation under a worldview more akin to something like threshold deontology, but Vaush is like a rule utilitarian, so I don't think that that would be applicable. Do you think Vaush is a zoophile? I don't think he's ever like fucked an animal or anything, but I do think that in terms of what he's attracted to, yes. At this point in time, I think that there's like enough reason to believe that that's the case. Femyoz has said it a few times that she thinks he's a zoophile. Yeah. Now, how bad do I think it is? I don't know. I just think it's bad to some extent. I don't know. It's hard to say. Like, because I don't know. Like, that's the thing, is it's like difficult for me to determine it because it's so abstract and like hard to attach to any real harm, where it's like, okay, is the reason I'm saying it's bad because I emotionally feel like it's bad, or is it because it actually is bad? Like, it really bad? Or do I just feel really bad about it? And understanding the distinction, for me at least, can be quite difficult sometimes. He jerked off to a cartoon kid. Okay, again, if from his perspective, keep in mind, from his perspective, I think it's reasonable to assume that he had no reason to believe that it was a child, right? Again, based on the image alone, it seemed pretty ambiguous. Like, it was definitely suspect, but nothing conclusive. Again, I think that something that a lot of people fail to account for is my standard of evidence isn't even the preponderance of evidence. It's guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. So, yeah. Let's see here. The images are clearly children, but they're not. I don't think that it's clear. I don't think it's super obvious. At least not to me. Like, I could see it being either way. Like, I don't know. Maybe I just have like a very bad gauge on what that would be, but like, I don't know. I mean, this isn't discourse that I'm usually engaged with. Like, I never really enjoyed talking about the lolicon debate. I've always fucking hated it. It's just like the most bullshit, like, dumbass wannabe debate bro shit of, well, you see, according to a utilitarian ethical framework, as a result of it not harming, it's like, shut the fuck up. Holy fuck. However, at the same time, it is kind of interesting, right? Because it does take certain ethical frameworks to their logical conclusions, right? And I think that's sort of the point of it. And I guess determining whether or not the ethical framework is wrong, whether or not the use of the ethical framework is wrong, as in the ethical framework itself is being misused or misinterpreted, or if it's a matter of maybe it's not as wrong as people think. Like, that's sort of like the determination that has to be made to an extent. I've seen the images. Yeah, so have I. So again, it's just one subjective opinion against another. In my subjective opinion, I could see it being interpreted either way, right? Yeah, Rise, it's funny the defenders don't actually show the full image of his full... What do you want me to do? Show the full image on stream so that my channel probably like gets a fucking strike? No thanks. I think I'm good. I'm not gonna risk getting a strike on my channel for showing fucking pornographic material. Or actually, I don't think it would get a strike. I think it would just age restrict the... I think the stream would probably get age restricted, but still. Like, that would just fuck it algorithmically. Look, I just don't want to risk that specifically. I don't want to see that shit. Yeah, that's the other thing, is some people aren't going to want to see it. Like, you can find it, right? Like, some people are going to want to see it just for curiosity's sake. Some people aren't. And for the people that do, they can find it. For the people that don't, then, yeah. So I don't like well, why don't you just show it? Well, because that would fuck the entire stream. So no thanks. And also, some people wouldn't want to see that. Hi Femyoz, my 2 cents. The girls with the horse were adults, clearly adults. The other ones, I think, were looking more at the dick. Oh, he was looking more at the dick than the girls, and he missed it. He was careless and stupid. Yeah, and again, that's like a potential interpretation. Not to mention that like when you see the girls, it's like, I don't immediately look at them and I'm like, yep, that's definitely a child, right? It's like, I'm not sure. And I could see how if you're not, like, especially if you're not even paying attention to that, like, I could see why you wouldn't be thinking about it. Like, I think that that explanation is not implausible, to say the very least. And that's enough for me to say, okay, it's not enough. Like, there's simply not evidence beyond a reasonable doubt that suggests that Vaush is a PDF file. He should get his lolly folder. This is such a retarded argument. He was too focused on the dick. Well, no, it wouldn't just be that he's too focused on the dick, right? It would also be the case that like, if you're not really thinking about like whether or not this is lolly and you just sort of see the image, right? And the main thing you're focused on is the dick. And also the like the other characters, like the 2 girls, don't seem like they don't necessarily seem like children. Like, I could see why someone would think that they're an adult. I think that there's like enough plausible deniability. But you are right in the sense that like, I don't think it's enough to say, well, you see, he was focused on the dick. It's like that's obviously, at least in of itself, a terrible argument. Well, you see, Your Honor, well, it is true that in the background there were naked 10-year-old girls. I was focused on the massive 8-inch schlong in the foreground, right? Like, obviously that's like a retarded argument, right? But like, I sort of understand the point that's being made. But I do think that specifically from Vaush was like a terrible defense. And that was like even in my defense stream of him, like when I was analyzing his video response or whatever, like that was one of the things that I criticized the most. I'm like, Vaush, do you want everyone to think that you're a pedophile? Is that your goal here? Because like, holy shit, you're making this shit so fucking difficult. For me to like act like the fucking YouTube lawyer, which is like sort of my thing. Like, I think that everybody deserves like a lawyer, both publicly and legally, right? You're dying on Lolly Hill? No, I'm actually not. Can you find the part of the stream where I defend Lolly and say that it's acceptable? If you can, please point me to it. Like, send me that as soon as you find it. Because like I don't remember defending Lolly ever. I think like the closest I've ever gotten to that is being agnostic and being like, well, I haven't really looked into it enough, so I don't know if it causes harm or not. Right? Like, that's like the most. I will admit, like, I'm like a little bit flip-floppy in that it's like I sort of, I'm like, okay, well, it's bad, but I also haven't done enough research to like verify that it's like bad. And you know, and you know, when I do look at the studies, it's like, well, there isn't evidence that shows that it increases this harm in this way, but also like, you know, this would also be like bad because it is still pedophilia, but also, and it's like this constant internal battle with myself of like, how bad is it? I think you should renounce hentai completely. I know I am. It's too nebulous. All faces look the same. But that's the point, is like, this is a broader problem with like hentai as like a medium, is yes, I agree with you. That's why I can't fucking tell, is because they all have massive fucking eyes. They all have like weird, unrealistic proportions, right? And it's like, there's like different versions of it. And it's like, I don't know how to interpret it. I hate how Ethan is basically shutting down debate and making it so everybody who has a different opinion or has another opinion is a pedo. That's fucking gross and insane. Yeah, absolutely. Like, I think it's perfectly fine to disagree with Keffals and Tipster, but to be like, oh, how could you defend Lolly and die on Lolly Hill? You're defending pedophilia. You yourself are basically a pedophile. You know, why would you be defending a pedophile unless, you know, you have some skeletons in your closet? It's like, it's basically just like a very disingenuous way of shutting down actual discourse that requires nuance and thought, right? Like, it could be the case that Tipster and Keffals are wrong without being pedophiles, right? It could be the case that I'm wrong without being a pedophile, right? Like, I feel like that's entirely possible, right? But part of why I'm willing to revise my position is because it's nuanced, right? Like, there's not like a, I don't know. Yeah, I don't. The discourse is just word games to distract you. No, I think that there's nuance behind it. He jerked off the cartoon children. Okay, but once again, okay, let me give you like a very like a clear example, okay? Because this is a real problem in the porn industry. Period. Okay, so. Let's say that you're an adult, right? And you go on to Pornhub or whatever site you enjoy going on. And you watch, you know, this hot chick with big boobies getting railed by this man. And you jerk off to it. You don't think anything of it. Well, what if it turns out that it's the case that this girl is actually a part of a sex trafficking ring and that she's 16? Well, that's wrong, and that's bad. But you didn't know that when you watched it. All you saw is, oh, here's a hot girl with big titties getting fucked by a man. You assumed that it was an adult that can consent. You were wrong in that assumption, but that was the underlying assumption, right? I would argue, similarly, if you don't know the context behind an image, right, that is drawn with the intention of depicting lolicon, but it's not clear cut as to what it is, or say it is a drawing of an underage character, but you don't know that it's a drawing of an underage character, I would argue that you would still have that same level of plausible deniability. Now, I will say that it's a stupid comparison because Vaush specifically downloaded the images of anime girls who are specifically drawn as kids. But I don't think that I could understand why he would not interpret them as kid-like. Like, is it that far-fetched to say, yeah, I could see why he might not think that this looks like a kid and that it's just like an art style depicting adults? Again, that's not to say that it wasn't depicting kids, because ultimately, in the end, they were. That was the artist's intention. But I don't have enough reason to believe that Vaush knew that that was the artist's intent, right? Again, there's always going to be some level of disconnect between the artist's intention and the interpretation of the art without an explanation from the artist, right? There's always going to be some level of a disconnect there. Now, how much disconnect is there? Well, that's going to be, and you know, it's going to depend on the art and what the interpretation is, and etc. How clear cut is it, right? So, for instance, if it's clear that yes, this is unambiguously a child, like this is like a little girl that's like, where it's like they're like tiny and they don't have boobs, etc., right? But even then, like whether or not they have boobs, I mean, that might be part of the equation, right? It's like, well, they don't have boobs, therefore it's lolly, right? But what if, I'm going to throw you a big curveball, okay? What if it's a trans girl? Okay, well, if that's the case, and they don't have boobs, and then I guess it's going to depend on whether they have a dick, I guess. But if that's all, but then you could argue that that's Shota, maybe, potentially, if it's like trap content. It gets very muddy very quickly. Like, for instance, would you argue that that Felix, who, for those of you who don't know, is like a a cat boy. He's like this little cat boy that a lot of people really like. You could argue that, well, usually grown men don't look like this, so this could be Shota. But like it seems to be the consensus seems to be that it's not. Even though you could make an argument of, well, this looks like a 10-year-old boy. But I don't think that it necessarily has to. Like if I look up images of Felix, right? Like some people might argue that like this is I don't know if this is fan art or like or whatever, but like someone might argue that something like this right here is Shota or Lolly, right? But some people wouldn't. I feel like it's up for interpretation, right? And I know that this is going to make a lot of the fucking femboys in my audience really angry because they know I'm right. They know I'm right. This is gray area. Like to claim that this looks like a grown man, I mean, does it? No, but does it necessarily look like a child? Well, I would also argue no. I think it could be interpreted as a very effeminate man, aka a femboy, right? Again, a lot of it has to do with interpretation. You picked the chibi style art piece, by the way. That's the fucking point. How do you categorically distinguish between chibi and lolly? Right? Where is the fine line? When does it stop being chibi and when does it start being lolly? That's what I want to know. Because I don't think that Felix is lolly, right? I don't, or Shota, because technically he's a guy. But, and obviously, you know, some fan art might be considered more on the problematic side or whatever. But like if you look at take what would be a good example? Like if you take this for example, right? Like I don't like, wow, that, you know, that's like some people might argue that's like a child's body. That's like a 10-year-old boy or a 10-year-old girl, right? Again, it's ambiguous. Again, I wouldn't make that argument. And of course, none of you will either. Because at the end of the day, regardless, you all have a certain bias. You know that this character is not a child. So obviously that's going to, well, play into whatever your interpretation might be. Now, never heard of Twinks? I almost read a certain word out loud. Your Honor, she didn't look. Anime is weird, to be fair. Yeah, that's part of it, right? Okay, but that's the point though. Is like, yeah, Twinks exist, right? But like, but again, this is why there's so much nuance. This is why there's so much nuance. Because if I were to be disingenuous, right? And let's say somebody I didn't like, and let's say we didn't know who Felix was, okay? If we didn't know who Felix was, and then it supposedly comes out that Vaush has lolicon on his computer or whatever, and one of the images is this but more sexualized, I guarantee you that people would be saying it's lolly. I guarantee it. I do not doubt for a second that people would be making that argument. Again, I do believe that there's a lot of nuance. I don't believe that Felix is Shota or lolly. But again, someone might make the argument that as a result of Felix's youthful and innocent appearance, that it could be classified that way. And they wouldn't be objectively wrong necessarily in viewing it that way, because to an extent, it is subjective, right? This isn't a clear-cut example of it being or not being one of those things. However, I could see either interpretation. I, of course, don't believe that it is lolly. I think it's just a very effeminate, hyper-feminized femboy. But again, that's my interpretation. It doesn't take you a very large brain to see that Felix is an FBI magnet. And see, there we go. We already have people in chat that would otherwise, agree with each other in terms of disagreeing with me in my defense of Vaush saying he's not definitively a PDF file. Disagreeing with each other because you all can't agree amongst yourselves as to whether or not Felix, the femboy, would put you on an FBI watch list. And this is what I mean when I say that in many instances, there is going to be some level of interpretation that is required. And the fact that there is not a collective agreement in my chat proves my point that, yes, it's going to be subjective to an extent. Notice how he wasn't designed to look like a child. How do you know that? Do you have proof? So if a separate artist draws him like one, no. I think one of the images I showed was canon, right? I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that this image right here, which has similar proportions, is canon, right? Look how big the head is compared to the shoulder width, right? How many men have those proportions? Basically next to none, right? Unless they have some sort of growing disability, right? Even the most feminine femboys in real life, for the most part, don't have those proportions, right? Again, I don't think that I don't think that he's lolly or Shota, right? But I think that it does put into perspective the fact that it's not as clear-cut as you might think. This isn't a defense of lolly either. It's just to say that the categorical distinction, the line between lolly and not lolly, is very ambiguous, I guess you could say. Right? Now, once you can categorize something definitively as lolly or not lolly, you can make that determination as to whether it is good or bad. But if we're dealing with the gray area in which we can't even make the determination as to whether or not it is or isn't lolly based on the image alone, then we can't make that moral determination, right? Now, given additional context, in the case of the images on Vaush's computer that people had an issue with, we can make the moral determination against those images, but we can't make the moral determination against Vaush for having those images if he didn't have that context that you used to make that moral determination in the first place, as you would be making a moral determination based on information that Vaush would not have been privy to. Again, Your Honor, the CP on my PC wasn't clear-cut. That's not what I'm saying at all, right? And again, actual CP would be more clear-cut because the defining factor would be how long have they been on the planet for? How many years old are they? Are they below or above the age of 18? If they're above, it's not CP. If they're below, it is, right? That is clear-cut, right? Whereas with something like Lolicon, right? There are a lot of loopholes in the system, I guess you could say, right? Because you could say, well, it's a 5,000-year-old vampire, right? So it's like, oh well, clearly because it's super simple, you know, that'd be okay, right? But that's less simple, right? What about a 12-year-old that looks like more like an 18-year-old, right? But they're canonically 12, and you know that they're 12, but they look 18. Would it then be okay to see it gets very, I would argue no, right? It gets very fucking muddy. But I would also argue that the 3,000-year-old vampire excuse also doesn't hold up. Like if it's clearly like, if it looks like a 10-year-old child, like it doesn't matter if it's a whatever, multiple thousand years old canonically, right? You ironically trying to debate your way out of it just looks so incriminating. No, I don't think so. Like at no point have I said that lolicon is okay or justifiable, or that it's something that I am personally okay with, right? My entire position here is that it's not always super clear cut. Now, personally, if we're talking about me personally, I don't think that there is anything that could incriminate me personally, because I don't like things that are in the gray area. Those things make me uncomfortable. Believe me, when I saw a lot of the images in Vaush's folder, especially the HD versions of them in particular, again, the screenshot from the thing, it was kind of hard to tell because it was kind of pixelated. But once I was sent the source material, because somebody sent it to me on Discord so that I could look at it on my stream, like I would be lying if I said I wasn't uncomfortable, to say the very least. But me being uncomfortable is not enough for me to morally condemn somebody and say that they should be completely canceled as a PDF file, right? Like, I don't think that my discomfort is like a good enough argument, if that makes sense, right? I think that the main disconnect here might be the fact that we have different standards of evidence, right? Now, if we both have enough evidence to draw conclusions, then we come to the same conclusions. I hope you're all aware of that, right? Like, if I believe that there's enough evidence, to believe that Vaush definitively and deliberately went out of his way to download what he knew was drawn CP, then we would come to the same conclusions about that, right? Unless you believe that that specifically it should be illegal, simply because I don't think that would be enforceable. Like, I think it should be socially ostracized rather than illegal, right? Like, I don't think that there's like a way you could make lolly illegal and actually enforce that, because it already is illegal in certain areas, and it's fucking basically impossible to enforce. And if there was a way to enforce it, you would start really, I guess, getting into anti-free speech territory because of how ambiguous some of it is. I don't know. You claim you're not a debate bro. When did I ever say I wasn't a debate bro? I admit, like, I'm a fucking, like, you know, look, when people, okay, there have been a few instances where, you know, people have thrown around the term pedophile to describe anybody they don't like. That I don't think is fair. Debate pedophile, I think that that's fair game. If you want to say that I'm a debate pedophile, or that Vaush is a debate pedophile, or that what's his face? I guess Destiny even would be a debate pedophile to an extent, right? Considering the incest arguments he's made in the past, right? I think that is a much better term, right? It's like you're willing to make absurd arguments for logical consistency type of thing, not because you even necessarily agree with them intuitively, but because you're exploring the ideas and why you think certain things are wrong, right? Like, I think that, like, the most debate bro thing ever is, like, feeling the need to justify why you think CP is wrong rather than just presupposing it's wrong, right? And I think that there is some utility in understanding why you believe certain things are wrong, right? It's not just wrong because it's wrong. There's always going to be a reason to it, right? People do the same by throwing around the term Nazi. Oh yeah, I absolutely agree. Even Vaush is guilty of this to an extent, right? Like he did that with Count Dankula. Like Count Dankula is not a Nazi. Like I don't have reason to believe that he is, right? He's just like a whatever, an edgy comedian shitlord, right? I don't think that that's enough to say, yup, he's definitely in favor of National Socialism. Count Dankula, notorious defender of the Holocaust. Yeah, of course. Like, yeah, no, I think that, no, I agree with, I think that terms being thrown around too much is just a problem in general, right? It's like somebody can be a bad person or do something wrong without being a pedophile or a Nazi. Like, this is something that people fundamentally don't understand at this point. Is, yes, you can do something bad, and you can even be a bad person without being a Nazi or a pedophile. I know, it's crazy. Like, those are not the only two things you, like, that are, like, those are not, you can do other things that don't meet the requirements for either of those that still are bad and make you a bad person or make you in the wrong. You can have a wrong belief that's harmful without being a Nazi. Like I've seen people say that fucking George W. Bush is far right. He's not. He's wrong about stuff. He sucks. He advocates for harmful positions, but he's not far right. Right? Like he's like the most like milquetoast neocon loser. Right? Like the use case of Nazi is in current discourse is clearly not meant to reference literally part of 1940s. Yeah, no. But like I believe that like if you have like a similar set of predispositions, like I think there's like an argument you could make, right? Like if somebody is like JQing, right? Like I would argue that like somebody like Nick Fuentes, even if he doesn't call himself a Nazi, I would say Nick Fuentes is a Nazi, right? Because he has Nazi beliefs, right? And if you have enough Nazi beliefs, I believe that you're, well, a Nazi. And I don't just mean beliefs in common with them either. Like it could be the case that like oh well Hitler and his supporters believed that drinking water is good, and that's a belief you have in common, so that counts against you. Like no, obvious. It would have to be beliefs that are exclusive or almost exclusive to that worldview, right? I also think that there is some social utility in using it as like a point of like a fixed point of reference when talking about why fascism is wrong, as long as you're correctly labeling fascists as fascists, right? The misuse of Nazi word is just idiots using appeal to emotion, but I feel like people do the same thing with pedophile, right? Like somebody can still be in the wrong. Somebody can still be like a fucking degenerate freak without being a pedophile, right? I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Fuentes and Richard Spencer are Nazis? Yeah, absolutely. Should she have had a little free speech balloon saying I'm a little speech balloon saying I'm 18? Yeah, I don't know. Should the anime girl have shown her anime ID? Well, I guess, well, the main argument there wouldn't be that, it wouldn't be about canonical age. Like, I don't think canonical age would matter as much as, like the age based on physical appearance. But even that can get really fucking, muddy. Like, for instance, I guess, yeah, I don't know. Like, the more I think about it, the more confusing it gets. Like, for instance, I specifically remember there was, like, an episode of, I think it was on TLC, 90 Day Fiancé, where there was, like, I think there was like this woman that was like 21. I don't know. I know she was old enough to drink. She was in her 20s. But she had this like weird, like, I don't know if it was some sort of genetic abnormality or disability where she basically just stopped growing when she was 8. So she basically looks like an 8-year-old, but she's 21. Like, that is something that has happened in the real world. And when I saw that, I'm like, okay, is it a moral wrongdoing that this person who's dating her is doing so? And intuitively, the answer would be yes. But then I thought about it some more, and I'm like, okay, well, hold on here. These are 2 consenting adults. The reason that pedophilia is wrong is because a child is being taken advantage of, right? This isn't a child in this case. So I thought about it some more, and I'm like, but I still wouldn't be comfortable saying this is justifiable. But what if the 21-year-old that looks like an 8-year-old were to date an 8-year-old? Well, then they would be a pedophile, and that would unambiguously be a not okay relationship, right? Because of the intellectual disparity there, and the power dynamic that would arise from that, right? So that wouldn't be okay. What if she were to date somebody with the same condition, however? Would that be wrong? And I would argue, even just based on intuition, no. And I think most people would agree. But you could also make the same argument of, but if she's an adult mentally that's attracted to somebody that physically looks like a child, despite looking like a child herself, wouldn't that also make her a pedophile by that same definition that would be used against the person that's dating her on TLC? In which case, maybe it's not wrong, because at the end of the day, they are 2 consenting adults. Because I wouldn't be of the belief that she should just never have any romantic or sexual partners and remain celibate for the rest of her life. I feel like that would be cruel and unusual, almost ableist in a sense, right? So I wouldn't be willing to take that route either. So I'm not sure how I feel about basing it on what somebody looks like. Because even though that intuitively feels icky, and when I first see that, I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you, dude? Are you trying to have Chris Hansen come to your house? The more I thought about it, the more nuanced it became for me, because it's not just as simple as, well, this is what somebody looks like, therefore they are. But when you talk about something that's animated, is it genuinely the case that this character who looks younger is meant to be perceived as older? Or is that merely a loophole in the system that's being used? The same way that, say, for instance, on Pornhub, instead of it being direct incest of brother and sister, it's stepbrother and stepsister. Is it because they only fetishize step siblings? Or is that just the loophole in the system? I would argue, in this case, it would be the loophole in the system. So it's very complex. And if she seeks someone out who is like herself, she isn't seeking them out for their looks as much as their life experiences. I agree. And in this case, I would make an analogy to chasers, right? So if people are going after her specifically for her looks, then that's fucked up. Similarly, like the same way that like if somebody dates a trans person for the sole purpose of fetishizing the fact that they're trans and have a whatever genitalia, that's also fucked up. That's wrong, right? I'm not okay with being fetishized in that way, under like the disingenuous pretense of, oh yeah, I'm totally, not a fucking weirdo, but then they end up being a weirdo, right? So I think a part of that is going to determine on like the actual motivation behind the person and what that motivation leads to, right? So like if it's the case that like Like, I don't think it's logical, and this is why, like, T for T, right, sort of avoids this whole issue, right? Is that, okay, well, this trans person has like a similar experience to me, so they're not going to view me in this light, right? So similarly, that would be an argument for why this person with this condition where they stopped physically growing at the age of 8 and they're an adult would date somebody else with that condition, because they know, okay, well, it's more likely than not that like this individual is somebody that has like a similar sort of life experience. They're not going to be fetishizing me and whatnot, whereas other people you wouldn't be able to know for certain, right? But that doesn't mean that it would necessarily be wrong in of itself to date that person if you don't have the same condition, right? I just think that it would be something that you would have to be really careful about, if that makes sense. Femyoz has big pedo energy. I disagree. I think that you're saying that in bad faith. So I'm gonna put you in a timeout. You can come back in 30 minutes when you decide you don't want to falsely insinuate something based on no evidence other than me trying to have a nuanced discussion about something. Debate pedophile? There we go. Now I agree. I can get behind being called a debate pedophile. Pedophile, can't get behind that. Pedophilia is bad. Debate pedophilia, maybe it's kind of based sometimes. And all the clip chimping is also clearly bad faith. Definitely stoking fires rather than just reporting on the drama. Yeah, that's the other thing I've had an issue with, right? Like, one of my, again, I can believe that Vaush is not completely innocent while also believing that people are taking clips out of context, right? These aren't mutually exclusive. Like, he wanked to a drawing of... Okay, but if he perceived it as an adult, and he thought he was wanking to an adult in the drawing, then no, not necessarily. It's a bad name. I feel like debate pedophile is a meme. Ethan made it so having even a small amount of disagreement makes you a secret pedo. Fucking hell. Yeah, literally. It's fucking brain dead. It's like, I wouldn't even, like, okay, like, for instance, even with, like, Keffals and Vaush, who are more on the side of, like, defending Vaush than I am, right? Like, they're less nuanced than me. They're just defending Vaush, period, in general. But I would be an example of somebody that doesn't blindly defend Vaush. Yeah, I'm biased in favor of him because going into it, beforehand, I already had a positive opinion of him, and I probably wouldn't if I didn't already know who he was. But I would also argue that I feel like you shouldn't be labeling somebody as a pedo for simply not wanting to jump to a conclusion that holds as much weight as that. Also, it seems like Synth is ready for the debate, so I'll say give me a few minutes, because I am going to be debating Synth. So in the meantime, I just want to... You know what, actually? I'll call to the bathroom and come back, so you better entertain my audience or severe consequences, okay? The pressure is on. So I'm gonna call Synth. Hello.
Yo, it's time for me to entertain your audience while you go to the bathroom.
Yes. Thank you.
All right. Tell me when you can start leaving now. Audience, be entertained. It's time. So I'm going to be making the argument that Vaush actually is a pedophile. I think there's actually pretty strong evidence for it, even though I think that that Ethan guy is kind of that Ethan guy kind of dropped the ball on the whole expose thing. Most people who do this do that because they have these weird problems with they want to appeal to like normal intuitions, and so they want to like kind of grandstand and moralize about things and not not be really aware of the things they're saying. So I think that there's like one thing that people don't want to say that makes them kind of like, it makes them kind of drop the ball when they're talking about the is Vaush a pedophile thing and has Vaush done anything morally wrong, which is saying that like maybe Vaush has some like inclination or like an attraction to lolly porn wouldn't make him morally wrong in and of itself. The issue is that when he participates in it, that's morally wrong, right? So somebody being a pedophile isn't morally wrong, but somebody acting on it is. And not just in terms of do they harm children, but also in terms of do they harm themselves. So like self-harm is going to be morally wrong. So like say you've got some person who, so you have some person and they watch bestiality porn, right? They've got some like mental disorder that causes them to want to watch bestiality porn, so they act on it and they do it, right? The individual there probably isn't actually hurting a horse, right? If they download the video from somewhere for free, it's certainly not the case they're funding more of it, right? If they're as long as they're not like advertisements on it or something, right? So the harm there, the moral wrong there can't come from the fact they're harming a horse. It can't come from the fact they're harming anyone else. It's only going to be from the fact they're harming themselves. And I think that people don't want to say that about the lolly or the horse thing, because then it feels like they're not like it feels more like a tragic moral wrong, right? It doesn't feel like they're like doing something that's harming others. Instead, it feels like, damn, this person couldn't resist the temptation to do something that hurts them, something that is bad for your brain, something that makes your life way more stressful, something that reinforces a really, really stressful sexual, I don't even want to call it an orientation, sexual
I'm back,
disposition.
by the way.
Oh, what's up? What's up? I was rambling to your audience about the wrongs.
Yeah, I was listening to it. Yeah, so a few things. I think that there is going to be a distinction over whether or not somebody is a pedophile versus whether or not we ought to call them that, right? So, like
yeah, but one thing to clarify is just before we call somebody a pedophile, it probably ought to be the case they at least are one. So, like, that's, you have to establish that, right?
Correct. But I would like to mention the fact that there still is going to be a sort of like a distinction there. So, like, for instance, it could be the case that someone in actuality is a pedophile, but like from the perspective of the person that's assessing whether or not they're a pedophile, they don't have any evidence. So it would be preferable, based on the information that they do have, to conclude that they're not a pedophile, even if they turn out to be wrong, right? Because it would be a methodology that is generally going to lead to more correct and less harmful conclusions, right? So I think there's like going to be a distinction there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that like we can imagine individuals who like inside their own head, right? They have all the things necessary to be called a pedophile, like they're attracted to children sexually, but they never act on it. They never engage in any kind of like self-harming pornography. They never publish anything showing they engage with self-harming pornography. And so those individuals, I think it would be pretty unfair to call pedophiles, even if it was the case that like in private correspondence they might have told you that they are or something, right? They're like they tell you privately, right? Imagine so we could imagine a case where you know that there's somebody's a pedophile, but it would still be wrong to call them that. But I don't think that applies to Vaush in this case. I think he's a big public figure, and one of the huge problems the huge moral issues with the current action he's doing. I agree with what President Sunday, a former friend of Vaush, said, which is he's throwing his audience under the bus by doing this, by not taking accountability for the fact that, yeah, you are watching self-harming pornography. Yeah, you didn't think those were goblins. They're not fucking green. They don't have goblin ears, right? You could tell.
Yeah,
right?
The goblin argument was terrible.
Well, it wasn't terrible in the sense that it was like the worst argument he could come up with at the moment. It's actually in given the evidence we have, it's probably the best he can get, right? But like it's just it's terrible because it's obviously a lie. Yeah, anybody who's seen those images knows that can't be it.
Yeah, so so I believe that like the reason that like for instance, if like take the non-offender that you described, right? Like somebody that's like that has like that natural inclination but they don't act on it. It could be the case that like by definition, right? They might be a pedophile, right? Like as in they are sexually attracted to children, right? But it would serve more social utility to not label them as that because it's a very loaded term, right? So you immediately assume that they have, harmed children or that they're some sort of danger to children. But in reality,
I disagree with that.
Like not that they're not necessarily. I think that they're more likely to be a danger to children, right? But it could be the case that say there's like there's somebody that has like a natural inclination towards being sexually attracted to children, right? But they know that if they were to act on that inclination, that children would be harmed, and that's morally reprehensible, so they don't do it. And if they do anything, it's going to see a therapist and whatnot, right? I think that's like the best thing that you could do.
Yeah, right? But let's be clear that Vaush isn't one of those cases, right? In the case of Vaush in
but I'm saying that
he is actually acting on it, right? He's downloaded the pornography. It's very clearly lolly porn. You'd have to be like crazy to not be able to notice it. I don't like. I think we can both agree we don't really believe any of his excuses regarding like, oh, I didn't know what I was downloading, especially given all the entire past history of things that he said regarding this kind of pornography. It's like, well, look, if you did know it was lolly porn and you found it hot, you would have downloaded it anyways, according to your morals, right? Like, why would it be the case you wouldn't?
I mean, I do believe that Vaush does have some sort of a plausible deniability, right? So if say for instance, he's not attracted to lolly, which could be the case, like as in like once he knows it's lolly, once he knows it's meant to depict a child, that's like a huge turnoff for him, right? That could be the case. Like
But that couldn't be the case given the evidence we have, right? Like the one that's at Tanner 1, we'll call it like Tanner 1 or maybe Tanner 2 to be as charitable as possible. The one that's like standing at eye level to the cock and has no breasts, right? That one's very, very clearly like extremely underage. In the case of the other one, it's like maybe like Tanner 2 or 3. That's the one that he's calling like short stack goblin porn. That one is like very clearly not short stack goblin porn. They look like 13-year-old girls in a threesome with a big old hairy man. It's like they're clearly like half his size. They have like the body types of like a fucking 13-year-old. They have like the breasts that I had when I was on like fucking estrogen for like my first month, right? They have incredibly small triangular fucking boobs. It's like really disgusting shit. Very obviously children. The idea that he looked at that and didn't know it was lolly is basically inarguable. Anybody who's seen that can tell you firsthand, yeah, those are obviously fucking kids. And the goblin excuse kind of locks in that he's definitely lying about it, given that they're obviously not green. They don't have goblin ears.
I mean,
they're not goblin shaped.
I don't buy the goblin excuse, but I did look at I did see the images, and like while some of them were definitely uncomfortable to say the very least, it's like I could see how it would be interpreted potentially as not a child. Right, like
if anyone else did this, if it like let's have a hypothetical. Let's say instead of it being Vaush who did this,
it was
right?
Ben Shapiro.
Yeah, it's any random person who you dislike or any random person you're even neutral on. Like imagine it's like I'm trying to think of somebody who you would know exists, but you're mostly neutral. Like Hasan, you're probably not like a super angry Hasan hater or something. If Hasan brings him up on stream, or Destiny brought him up on stream, or like Ben Shapiro brought him up on stream, or like Charlie Kirk did, any random commentator brings those up on stream, and that shows that that's their porn folder. They'd never hear the end of it. In fact, Vaush would never let them hear the end of it. He'd be roasting those people on being pedophiles forever. He'd be like, this is what the conservatives do. They accuse us of being groomers when in fact they are the ones who want to have sex with children. They have lolicon on their hard drives. Like what we'd be talking about this for fucking years. And of course we would, because they got caught watching child porn.
Well, that's more of like that would be more of like an argument of hypocrisy than anything else, right?
No. What I'm saying is hypocrisy can exist on either end, right? Like what I'm saying is that in the case of this, the hypocrisy is not that we would call those people pedophiles. It's that we're not calling Vaush one.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. Like in terms of whether or not, well, I don't know, because I feel like in terms of whether or not I label somebody as a pedophile, I feel like I'm a lot more reluctant than somebody like Vaush, right? Like I don't know if you've seen the meme or not, where it's like Destiny is like the wait for facts truther, and then Vaush is the ultimate concluder. It's kind of like that, where I'd say I'm more similar to Destiny in that regard, where I just sort of don't draw conclusions unless it's like, okay, I basically know for certain that this is the case. Not literally for certain, but you get what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, the issue though is that like the level of plausible deniability we have to give Vaush here is one that we would never afford anyone who isn't like very, very much rock solidly on our side, right? So it seems like the hypocrisy is not we would use this as a tool against our enemies, but also we'd use this as like a thing to roast people for if they weren't our enemies, right? They become our enemies by virtue of this. But the thing with Vaush is because of the fact that so many people have a strong parasocial connection to the guy, they're like, look, people have accused him of pedophilia in the past, and it's been out of context, and so on and so on. Really, none of those were actually out of context. He was lying about those too. He lied about this. It seems like it's really, really weird that we're getting the benefit of the doubt here. He's like a long history of saying shit that's like Mr. Girl levels of crazy, right? Now
So
we caught him with child porn.
I would not say that it's Mr. Girl levels of crazy, right? Like Mr. Girl literally admitted that he was turned on.
Well, Mr. Girl never said that. Well, no,
children.
The argument I could hear as to why it's not Mr. Girl levels of crazy is that it's crazier. Like the shit that he said regarding there being no more convincing moral or legal argument against child pornography was like worse than anything Mr. Girl's ever said.
Well, hold on. That was in the context of a discussion about ethics, right? That was an ethical discussion.
Yeah, it was. And that was a claim about ethics.
Yeah, it was a claim about ethical frameworks that he disagrees with.
No,
So
no,
if
no,
he's
no,
going to,
no. It's a
if
claim
he's
about an
going,
ethical. No, it's a claim about an ethical framework he agrees with. He's a rule utilitarian, right? So he thinks it's the case that, in the case of buying child pornography, the arguments you would have to make for why that's wrong would also apply to meat consumption. And this was in the context of a conversation about veganism with Vegan Gains, right? Where Vegan Gains asks him, hey, if you don't think you're responsible for the impacts of your purchases, would you be responsible for the impacts of purchasing child pornography? And then he bites that bullet. So he said it's not the case that he would be doing anything morally wrong by buying child pornography. It's not the case that what he's saying is there is an inconsistency in normal people's ethic. What he's saying is there is consistency in his ethic because he both is okay with buying meat. Even though it's wrong to cause harm to animals directly, it's okay to do it through purchases. And he says the same is true of children. It'd be wrong to cause harm to them directly, but it's okay to do it through purchases. Because we do it in the case of child labor.
If that's the context, then it seems to be the case that doesn't make Vaush a pedophile, that makes him a debate pedophile, right? Just biting the most retarded bullet.
No.
Like,
What I'm telling you is What I'm telling you is that in the case of like biting this bullet, he's bitten this bullet and announced the biting of this bullet over and over and over again. And that should give us some kind of evidence as to his psychology, which is that he doesn't think there's anything morally wrong with this. Now, that might not make him the kind of person who would do this, but it does let us know that he wouldn't have some kind of moral issue with doing this, and then he got caught doing it. So the idea that, oh, if he knew it was lolly porn and he found it attractive, right, he would stop finding it attractive once he'd realize it's lolly porn. No, of course he wouldn't. He wouldn't have any moral issue with that. It wouldn't turn him off. He'd be like, well, I didn't know it was lolly porn yet. I already thought it was hot. Turns out it was lolly porn. I don't see any moral issue with this. Why would I stop?
Okay, do you by any chance, and I'm not gonna watch it right away, but like after we're done calling, do you by any chance have a link to the original debate in which Vaush said the thing to Vegan Gains where there's no argument against? Okay, yeah. Because I'm gonna want to watch. I am the kind of person where it's like, I'm not gonna draw any conclusions until I literally watch the whole debate on stream, because like that's the kind of person I am. I don't know.
I just want to be clear that it's not the case that Vaush was saying something like I know that the lie that Vaush tells is that he was actually pointing out some ethical inconsistency in normal people's ideas of ethics. No. He was not pointing out inconsistency in other people's. He was pointing out the consistency in his own, which is that he doesn't have a moral issue with buying a product that harms someone else. But I want to talk about one thing really fast, which is like why it's the case that child labor is not equivalent of child pornography, why you're not doing something morally wrong by doing that, right?
Correct.
Obviously, I'm a vegan, so I think you're doing something morally wrong by purchasing meat. But in the case of child labor, there's like a couple of reasons that are really important. One, you're not actually going to help those kids by boycotting it, right? The reason they're there is because they don't have money. If you take the money away and instead give it to like, I don't know, fucking for-profit prisons in the U.S. who do labor,
then they just starve and die instead of
So you're harming the kids by boycotting that. Exactly. You'd be doing good for the kids by boycotting child pornography, because if you don't pay for the child pornography, those kids don't get raped.
Yeah, I've made this exact argument before. Like on I don't remember if it was in the context of people talking about Vaush or not, but I do distinctly remember making like a very similar argument. Actually, I think it was in the context of talking about veganism and like a Discord VC. Like this, I don't even think this was on stream. I think I was specifically talking about like, okay, here's why it's like this increases the supply and demand for basically just raping animals en masse. Here's why this argument doesn't apply to child labor. So like that was the context of the argument. But yeah,
yes. But I want to mention the important part about this, which is not Vaush said stupid shit in a debate, which I think is like maybe we can get caught up. The issue is that he lied about it afterwards, right? And that means like if somebody has a long history of lying about their views on child pornography and then they get caught with child pornography on their hard drive, drawn child pornography to be clear, then I don't think it's the case that we should give them the benefit of the doubt there. He's already been lying about this over and over and over again, right? His audience has been repeating the lies, and he's willing to throw his audience under the bus by getting them to repeat his lies. And now, and as a trans person, this really makes me upset, he has a very, very large trans component of his audience, which are now defending this and making trans people look like pedophiles because they want to defend Vaush, and they're getting called groomers because of it. He's throwing the trans community under the bus because he doesn't want to admit, yeah, I kind of looked up some weird freak shit because I'm kind of a weird freak on sex. Like, sorry, bro, I'm kind of weird about this. Don't defend me on it. Don't throw yourself under the bus for me. Instead, what you guys should do is like just don't fucking defend it, right? Like, oops, I fucked up. I did something morally wrong. I should get therapy for it, right? That's the thing that Vaush should say. In which case, he'd be very morally defensible, right? Even though clearly the action would still be wrong.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, fair enough. I kind of actually agree with that. I think ultimately, what this is going to boil down to is me watching the debate, like just link me. Like if there's any clips that he's lied about, the context of, just send me all of them.
Each and every single one of the clips that people post, right? That people will then reply to with the look at that the fucking WebM of like, look at this, you fucking idiot, with like the text on it, and then it'll be like Vaush saying the context. Each and every single time he described the context, he lied. So in the case of the vegan gains debate, he wasn't saying here's an inconsistency in folk ethics. He was saying here is the consistency in my own ethic, which is even in the case of child pornography, I bite the bullet, right? Which is what vegan gains brought up. He said he then said that again, which is, he said this claim about I've seen no convincing moral or legal argument as to why child pornography should be banned, right? And the argument he's giving there is, look, we don't ban it in the case of child labor, right? We don't say you can't purchase child labor, so why would we say you can't purchase child sex labor, right? And the answer there is like, well, holy shit, dog. If the child labor was harming the kids by virtue of you paying for it, we should ban that. That's why we ban child labor in the U.S., because it would harm kids in the U.S. if you did that. Kids in the third world and countries where like the economy's fucked, it doesn't harm them, right? In the case of those cases, the fact that they have a law that allows child labor harms them, but us purchasing it doesn't, because those kids are just fucking broke if you start boycotting that. The kids in the case of like child sex work, if those individuals would have to be broke by virtue of not being raped, they should be broke as opposed to be raped, right? It's better to be broke than raped. But it's not better to be broke than have a job as a child. Like, it sucks. It shouldn't be the case they have to work. But in reality, you're not doing something morally wrong by not boycotting it.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. Yeah, no, I think that it was definitely, when I did the defense stream of Vaush, I will say that like one of the most difficult things for me to not do was get caught up in why he's wrong about act utilitarianism.
Yeah,
he's so oh my god, when it comes to his ethics, sometimes I swear to fucking god, he's an anti-realist, and he's, oh my god, he's just so fucking brain dead. I swear to.
Well, yeah, he's morally kind of repugnant, right? He doesn't. Not only is he wrong about act versus rule, right? But like even worse is he doesn't think that he's not even a utilitarian. He calls himself one, but it's clearly not, because he doesn't think you have to maximize the good outcomes. He just thinks there's like, well, look, as long as you don't like. Basically, what he is the same thing as the ANCAPs are. He believes in like a variant of the NAP. He says as long as it's the case that you're not causing unconsensual harms, nothing wrong with it. And he'll just say that there's unconsensual harms in the case of things like using like trades or economics, right? Which I agree with. Of course, that would be unconsensual, right? It's not the case you're consenting if you have to be paid for it. You're just like, you're doing it because you have to, because like starvation is the other option. So that wouldn't be consensual. But the issue is his ethic is not, it's not utilitarian. It's like he believes in a variant of the NAP.
Well, wouldn't that be a form of utilitarianism though? Like negative utilitarianism, where it's like the goal where basically preventing harm supersedes causing good, like priority wise.
No, in the case of a negative utilitarian, they still believe in like maximization, right? In that case, they'll usually call it minimization, but it's the same as maximizing suffering times -1 or something, right? Make that number as big as possible. Make the amount of make the suffering amount as little as possible. Vaush doesn't believe in that. He also doesn't believe in like what the negative utilitarians will also do in act emission, right? He thinks that like act and emission distinctions do exist, which is nonsense, right? Utilitarians would never agree with that. He thinks there's a moral difference between doing an action and then not doing an action, right? When in fact, not doing an action is still doing the action of making a choice, not to do an action. So it's just total nonsense distinction. But this is nuanced philosophy stuff. It's not really the important part. Even if you don't know the ins and outs of ethics, you can. Yeah, like I wouldn't say somebody's a pedophile because I don't know the ins and outs.
Like it's like I was like barely scratching the surface with like an ethical analysis, and like people in chat, like especially new viewers, were like getting annoyed. It's like, what the fuck is this nerd speak? Yeah. I'm like, okay, I'll try to stick to the main point. It was so oh my god, I swear to god, because like in that stream specifically, it was like my goal was just act as like Vaush's lawyer almost, right? Just because it's like, I don't know, there's something about me where it's like, okay, like if somebody is like whatever, like being talked about completely negatively, it's like, but what if they're actually innocent? So I look into it, but oh my fucking god, it was actually so infuriating the way he talked about act utility. Oh my god, there was one fucking example. It was the alien he was arguing about act versus rule utilitarianism, and the fucking example he used is if there was a race of aliens that was gonna wipe out the entirety of humanity, and the only way you could stop it was to molest an 8-year-old child, would it be wrong to molest the 8-year-old child? It's like, well, if that's the only way, if it's one 8-year-old child that gets molested, or humanity literally fucking dies, like, obviously the correct answer there is one 8-year-old child that gets molested. Like, that's, like, the fact that Vaush would use this as an argument in favor of rule utilitarianism is absurd.
Yeah, because the issue is just like on rule utilitarianism actually prescribes you do the same thing the act utilitarian does there, which is
I
like,
just don't, I don't understand. Yeah. I literally don't understand how his debate opponent was so retarded that he didn't point that out. That, like, his opponent was just like basically like refusing to engage with the hypothetical. He was like, well, that wouldn't happen in the real world. That is idealism.
And the American Johnson video,
oh my god.
Yeah, that sucked, and I think that anybody who's like trying to defend American Johnson's debate performance there is kind of like they're shooting themselves in the foot, and that's like, I think that's
what Ethan did.
Yeah, exactly. I was about to say Ethan kind of once again is dropping the ball here. I think this is one of the problems I have with people who make the like, who want to like do the job of like doing the Vaush expose on him being a pedophile, but like none of them understand the ethics of pedophilia, so they all just make themselves look terrible. Vaush has very clearly done something extremely morally wrong. The issue though is like there's two ways in which he does something morally wrong. One is through like the consumption of lolicon is bad for him. It's bad for his own brain. But also it's now public, and he's trying to get his audience to defend him on that, which throws them under the bus, right? Which fucks them. It fucks trans people. It fucks leftism. And like Vaush is not more important than the entirety of trans people or the entirety of leftism. He's like, over the past year, he's been like doing nearly no good activism. He's getting fucking outpaced. He's getting outpaced ethically, right? To say by Destiny on that. Like even Destiny's like fucking doing real politics, and Vaush is just like sitting in his like his fortress, or he does the fortress arc thing or whatever. Avoiding challenging conversations, avoiding being an effective advocate in the one area that he can be, which is debate. It's just. He has like he doesn't have any use value for the leftist movement anymore, and he's only got this diminishing value, which is like getting a bunch of fucking lefties to defend him for being a pedophile, which is it's fucked. It's like it breaks the movement. It's fucked for us. It's fucked for trans people. It's like it's clearly a net negative.
Yeah. To add on to that, like I think this is like a broader issue with like people that are like further left is like they don't really do anything. They're just not like they're not pragmatic. They don't have like any like current solutions to like it's like more of like well, theoretically if the world was like this that would be good. It's like, okay, great, but what are steps we could take to get there? And I feel like a lot of people on the left don't really help with that. They're just like, yep, this is ideally what society would be like, and it's like, okay, gee, thanks. And it's like,
yep.
This is where like this is why leftists and liberals will disagree with me, is because I'm in favor of socialism, but like I don't believe in like having this big socialist revolution to get there. I believe in slowly changing a society over time with individual policy positions that get you closer to a socialist society.
Yeah, of course. I mean, maybe I agree with everything you just said there. Maybe to get us like some progress on the core of the discussion here.
Yeah.
I think we can both agree like flamenco's defense is really bad, right?
Flamenco's just nobody takes flamenco seriously.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. But flamenco not being taken seriously is like different than his defense being bad. His defense is bad though, right? Like flamenco's defense is kind of shit.
I think so. Yeah. Yeah.
But
from what I've seen, at least.
But his defense is probably more plausible than Vaush's, right? Like the goblin thing versus like, oh, I'm like self-inserting as the little boy who's getting like through like the mommy is having sex with or whatever. Like that's like way more plausible than like, is it the case that I saw these things that weren't green and didn't all look like goblins, and for some reason I thought they were goblins? Like I feel like flamenco with his bad defense is still in a better position than Vaush's. Like I can imagine he's actually telling the truth. I don't think Vaush is telling the truth. The goblins should.
Yeah. Or yeah, well, I do think Vaush is telling the truth with imagining himself as the horse, though.
I think it's more plausible than the goblin shit, right? But in the case of the horse porn, I also have like less of an issue than I do with child porn. But like the horse porn is I also don't think he's telling the truth with the imagining himself as the horse thing. It's like if somebody said like, oh no, when I watch like I don't know, like fucking BBC cuck porn, I'm like imagining myself as the black guy, and you look at them and they're like a white person. I'm like, no, you're not. No, you're not, buddy. So it's like when Flamenco says, I imagine myself as a little kid. Like I'm actually self-inserting as a little girl. Like no, you're not, bro. No, you're fucking not. You think this kind of dynamic of like this this fucking horse with this big fucking dick fucking some like little tiny person is just super hot. Like that's what you like. That don't lie about I'm pretending I'm the horse. No, you're not. You're like watching the horse cock because it's like it's weird and taboo, and you have a sexual fetish for the taboo.
I guess that's plausible. I mean, I don't know. I can't read Vaush's brain, unfortunately.
Yeah, we can only induct from the evidence, but the evidence is pretty bad for him.
Well, I think, but the thing is though, like the reason I say that I think it's reasonable that he might act like that he would be telling the truth there, is because in terms of like the image where the horse was whatever fucking the girls or whatever, like it was fuck. I could see it being the case that Vaush would insert himself as the horse rather than one of the girls, right? Because like more often than not, like if you're watching porn or looking at something, you usually self-insert as.
I disagree.
Really?
Yeah, I don't think you usually self-insert with porn. I think that sometimes you do. I don't think it's the case you self-insert with.
I always do.
Yeah, I know when you're watching like Femboy gets railed by giant strap-on or something. Yeah, you're self-inserting as a femboy, of course. But the point being is I don't generally think that most people are like self-inserting as porn, especially in cases where the thing they're claiming to self-insert as is just like the taboo is about the fact that it's different from you, right? So in the case of like I don't know, like the fucking the race fetish stuff, like if you're a white person, you're not self-inserting as the black dude. Like be realistic there. You're not doing that because the entire fetish is based on the difference it has to you. In the case of the horse, the entire fetish is based on the fact that you're just not a human. Right, you're not self-inserting as the horse. You could like if that was the case, Vaush wouldn't have said that he, it wouldn't be sufficient for it to just be a person with a horse cock. It has to be an actual horse. Like, come on, buddy. Right, like at that point, it's like, if it was the case you were self-inserting as a horse, you just wanted a big dick. Maybe I'd get it. Maybe you just want a big horse dick. But if it's the case it has to be a horse itself, and the fetish is about the taboo of that being an animal. But that's tangential. Like, I don't give nearly as much of a fuck about the fact that he's watching bestiality porn, which I still think is bad, as I do that he's watching drawn child porn.
So, honestly, I think that if I'm going to be completely honest, I believe that the horse stuff, in terms of, like, how conclusive it is as evidence, is honestly worse. Because, like, I feel like there's not, like, room for plausible deniability or, like, different interpretation. Like, I saw the leaks, and I saw... Like, it's like, okay, that is clearly meant to depict a horse. Like, there's literally nothing else it could be. Like, there's no, like, well, I actually interpreted this as, like, an anthropomorphic... It's like, no, that fucking bullshit. That's a horse. Like, it's clearly a horse. And because it's super concrete, that's why I've sort of been, like, leaning more towards this position, like, over time, like, over investigating this, towards, like, yeah, I'm comfortable calling him a zoophile at this point, but not a pedophile, if that makes sense.
Let's actually throw credence on the table. Like, what's your rough, you don't have to be exact or anything. What's your rough estimate that he's like a zoophile? Percentage-wise.
I'd say, like, in terms of just being attracted to animals, not like fucking animals or anything. Yeah.
Yeah, of course, he doesn't have to actively do it. Just are you attracted to animals?
I'd say like a solid... I'd say above 99%, considering the fact that he's literally got porn saved of drawings of animals. I feel like it doesn't get any more clear-cut than that, unless you go out and fuck an animal.
Of course, yeah. I actually hold, like, yeah, it probably is the case. There's a higher chance of him being a zoophile than a pedophile, but I think both chances are high. So, like, the same kind of evidence you just said for the zoophile, like, we have we don't have his entire porn folder. We have a small sampling of it, right? It's like called like eight or so images, probably a little bit more than that, maybe like 10.
Yeah.
And of that, almost all of them had horses getting fucked or like horses fucking. And then two of that sampling of about 8 had like children in them, 3 total children. So
yeah, I don't know, because it's like harder to tell that it's like again, there's like more room for interpretation there because the lines are kind of, because I feel like with like the whole, I feel like it's in the gray area, and maybe I'm just bad at looking for that kind of stuff because I don't normally see it.
so we have like in the case of the ones with the Jesus, this is I hate talking about this topic, but in the case of the the one of the two naked children image, Jesus, that's fucking like nauseating. Yeah. In the case of that, what Tanner stage do you think those look like they're at? Because my estimate's like Tanner 2 or maybe 3, probably 3.
I don't know. I don't have a good estimate. I just all I remember is seeing it. It definitely wasn't a comfortable experience for me, but I had to do it for the sake of the stream.
Yeah, but the reason it wasn't a comfortable experience for you is not because like, oh, hypothetically this might be lolly. It's because like it's obviously lolly, right?
Well,
like,
I feel like it's because I feel like it's because I knew that it was, and that was the intent going into it. But like I also could like see, like, regardless of that fact, that like I could see why it would be interpreted differently, if that makes sense. Like I can it's like I can cognitively empathize with a different interpretation, if that makes sense.
I don't think I could. I think there are 13-year-olds who very clearly looked older than the girls there, and I think that it would still be like pedophilia to find those attractive. Those in the case of these are like average 13-year-olds. These aren't even like outliers. These are like they have like small, like disgusting, underdeveloped breasts. It's like fucking super nasty. But they have these little tiny, like 1 month on estrogen boobs, or like 1 month into puberty boobs, right? It's really clearly like those are the older ones, by the way. Like the youngest one has no boobs.
What if they're trans girls? You know?
Well, unfortunately, we have images of what their genitalia looks like. So I mean, chances we do.
Nah, that's more.
They don't look like
just a shit post. But yeah, you
doesn't look like bottom surgery to me. It looks more like underdeveloped vulva, which is yikes. Not a good look for the Vaush man.
See, I think part of the issue might just be I'm not good at analyzing whether or not something is meant to depict something like that. Just because I don't know, I'm not thinking about the criterion.
Well, like. Luckily, in this case, we know that this is like the artist is like a lolicon. This is an image that like the user base of the website that he got it from tagged it as lolly. It's like,
wait, how do you know he got it? How do you know that's the website he got it from?
Oh, you can check which websites it's available on, right? So you can do a reverse image search, and you can see it's just Boros. So it's like Dan Boro, Gel Boro, and like other Boros. And like
it
given
wasn't available on Twitter or anything, because he made it sound like
the only place it was. Well, the only place on Twitter it was available from was the artist itself, which the artist is like very clearly like also a lolicon. And their profile's even tagged with it. All their shit's lolly.
Yeah, but if he's saving it from Twitter, right? He's just scrolling on Twitter and he doesn't actually look at their profile, and he just sees that one image, right? And then he saves it and he doesn't look at their profile. Like I think.
Of course, I actually think it's plausible. Like even if it was on the Boros, you could. Well, what I'm saying is like even on the Boros, right? It could have been the case you just didn't look at the tags, because like honestly, when I'm on those websites, I don't look at the fucking tags. So I like search by the tags I like, and then like I click on the image, right? I don't look at the fucking tags on the left unless I'm like trying to figure out what tag people would use for some specific thing, right? Other than that, yeah, I think it's totally plausible you didn't see the tags. The thing that I'm saying is like, it's really obvious that the intent of it was to be lolly because of the evidence we have about the artist and the tags and so on.
Oh, yeah, in terms of the artist's intention, yeah. Like, yeah. I wouldn't be uncomfortable saying, yeah, the artist is most likely a PDF file, right?
Of course, but the point I'm saying is just that, like, this isn't a case where it's unclear if the artist intended to draw that. It's also not unclear that is supposed to be a child. Like it's like you can
what would be
just on visuals where you can see it.
Right, but what would be unclear is Vaush's interpretation of it based on what information he may or may not have had. Right, like we don't know.
We can't read his mind, but the evidence shows that Vaush has a long history of lying about this, and also that like his defense is like relatively implausible, which is the goblin thing, right? So it's like the most likely answer here just seems to be, yeah, bro, you like looked at it, you thought it was hot, right? And you didn't give a fuck that they were children, right? Like they obviously look like children. Like those are. You look at those images. I'm gonna fucking disgust myself by pulling this up so I can see the fucking image again, just to make sure that I'm not like being delusional. Let me open it up really fast. Sorry.
Yeah.
I have the link to that file. Don't ask me for it. But if you DM me saying that you're asking for it, then you won't look like you just asked me to send you child porn.
All right.
Yeah,
no, I get what you're saying.
I'm looking at the image. I'm looking at the. I'm here looking at child porn. No, I'm seeing the fucking image Vaush had. I'm thinking of the threesome one, and it's like very. I like forgot to mention this, but their heads are like proportionally like child-sized heads for their body size. They like have these huge heads and these like they have the big baby foreheads and like the huge fucking baby eyes. Like even ignoring the body, and like the cock is like the size of one of their torsos.
To be fair, like in defense of the cock being large in comparison, like it could just be a massive cock. I mean, considering the fact that, like, okay, if we're dealing with hentai,
yeah, I get that,
like,
but
they could have like an 18-inch cock, right?
yeah, in this case, that doesn't work because we can also see the size of the person's body, and it's like proportional to the dude's body. Like the cock is like probably a bit big for the guy's body, but it's like not like the size of like half of his torso or something, right? It's like a normal size cock for his body, and like then there are these fucking Jesus. Then I'm actually a little bit nauseated looking at it. Sorry.
I think
let me
okay,
scroll away
wait,
from that.
shit. Now I think
Yeah.
based on I think I'm starting to understand why I was so uncomfortable when I saw the image, because it was like, to me, I was like, oh, I'm just being irrational, I'm just being uncomfortable, but I don't think that this is evidence enough, right?
Yeah.
But like now that you're pointing out like specific details, it's like for me, and maybe this is like a me problem. I think that it's kind of difficult to analyze specific details like that when you're like seeing something like really fucking nasty. I don't know, but it was like, okay, I just don't like this because that's my personal subjective opinion, and it looks kind of sussy, but I don't want to make any conclusions based on vibes. So I'm not gonna like definitively say this is lolly. Yeah, I don't know.
But yeah, looking at it again, it's like
It's
not really.
definitely a bit on the yikesy side, and even the first time viewing it, I was like, yeah.
Well, to be clear, I'm not saying it's a bit on the yikesy side. I'm saying if you look at it, it's kind of clear they're children. It's like not.
Yeah, I mean, I think if nothing else, it's not an unreasonable conclusion to come to. So I guess I'll, if nothing else, concede on that front.
Yeah, and that's and like out of the two images, that's the one with the older ones in it. The other one has like no breast development, and it's like this little tiny, like weird skimpy bikini that's like makes it very clear there's no breast development, and like you can see I mean, I guess you can like assume like, oh, what if the person's like on their knees or something? Given the size of their body, it looks like they're just standing up at eye level to cock. Yeah, so I don't. That's in the case of the younger one. Like both of those images to me just
that
seem like,
that one was that one disturbed me a little bit. I'm like, I don't like the way this looks, but I couldn't pinpoint why.
Yeah, the one like the one that is like the first one linked of like the one that says sloppy blowjob devil. I see like no issue with that. It's like, yeah, the person's like dressed in a way that's kind of like childlike, but that person could be like fucking 19 or 20. The other ones like the older of the ones that I think are clearly children look like they're maybe 13, and the other one looks like they might be like an 8-year-old or something.
Yeah,
like the only thing I could imagine that would like have a more clearly young character would be like it wouldn't even count as lolicon. I think they call that toddlercon.
Oh jeez.
Yeah, like that's the only thing I can imagine.
That's
younger
a
than
thing.
us, really. Yeah, it's
what the.
Yeah.
Why is that a thing?
Well, because they're pedophiles.
I see. I've always. And see, this is the thing. Like, I've always hated the lolicon discourse because it's like I intuitively know, okay, this is wrong, but like I can't make arguments based on my intuition, and it's like really difficult to like, I don't know, make rational arguments for something that's like really. Yeah, you get the point.
Yeah, it's yeah. When something's like this disgusting, it clouds the brain and makes it harder to like make the rational argument. It's like a moral dumbfounding case, right?
Yeah. It's like I feel like I would lose a debate with fucking Flamenco TV just because I wouldn't be able to think properly. I mean, he's not able to think properly either, but he's used to it, you know.
True. Yeah, if you lose the ability to think properly, then you're in Flamenco's territory now, and then not being able to think about stuff. In this, I think the rational argument, right? If I'm trying to like divorce myself from like all of my biases, and just try to make the rational argument, it's just to say like, okay, what Tanner stage are they at? In the case of the older one with the threesome, they look like they're at like Tanner 3, they're very clearly at Tanner 3, right? Which probably like for females on average ages 13. Some people get there like a little bit later, by like age 15. That's pretty rare though. Some people get there a little bit earlier by age 11. Once again, also pretty rare. So like yeah, they're like 13-year-old girls who started puberty, who started like the I don't know, called the brunt of puberty relatively recently.
Interesting.
Which I mean, you've been on you've been on hormones a bit, is that correct? If I remember right?
Yeah, 8 months.
8 months, yeah. And you understand like how much 8 months of hormones does to like breast development. It's different for different people, of course. Like yeah,
Yeah. No,
yeah,
I have like it's my breasts are definitely on
yeah.
the
Describe your
smaller
tits to me.
side
Go
there.
ahead.
Yeah, I'm sure you want me to. I'm sure you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, that's true. But back to the substance though. Is that like we both know, like, as being trans women, we understand like how fast breast development works. We understand how long it takes to get those boobs once you start like pumping the female puberty hormone into you. It's
Yeah.
not long to get tiny boobs like that. Yeah, it's I'm sorry, like the discussion's really nauseating. I keep like stumbling over my words here, and I also woke up like call it an hour ago.
Yeah, no worries. Some certain discussions with certain subject material are kind of difficult to have, I can't lie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's interesting. Yeah, you're gonna have to send me like the full debate with Vaush versus vegan gains.
Oh yeah, it's bad. It like most vegan debates end up with somebody biting like a crazy bullet, but it's not always the case. They bite a bullet that's so crazy it shows they're like wildly divergent from the average human's moral intuition. They just show that it's like, yeah, they're kind of divergent. So they'll be like Destiny bit the bullet on like killing off like the Sentinelese if it was the case it benefited him, right? Which is like, yeah, that's pretty bad. But like, there's a lot of people who would be like, would probably do some bad shit if it benefited them. But in this case, it's more like we could just, even assuming it doesn't benefit Vaush, I guess it does, but assuming it doesn't, there's still like the average person would be fucking repulsed if you told them like, yeah, I think there's nothing morally or legally, there's no law that should exist against, and there's no moral rule that should exist against somebody paying money to have a child raped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, for real. This is and that's like partially an issue with the way some people debate, and it's also partially an issue with just bad ethical analysis from Vaush. I wish that Vaush still debated frequently, because I feel like that would be like an opportunity for me to like debate somebody that's rhetorically more effective than me, that genuinely believes in a wrong position that I know is wrong, but also it's like really low stakes because it doesn't actually matter if I lose the debate. So like,
yeah, I mean, honestly, just by virtue of having a debate where the other person's proposition is that it's not morally wrong to pay someone to rape a child, you're like, you kind of win by default, right? You win on optics by default. They're not going to be able to like rhetoric themselves out of looking insane there.
That's something that a lot of debate nerds overlook, is the optics of a debate. And this is something I used to overlook, is like the actual optics, because I would like exclusively think about logical consistency. That's the only thing that mattered. But like I've definitely bitten some insane bullets, I'm sure.
Yeah, but keep in mind,
I think you got me to bite some insane bullets a couple times in like a debate where you were like, whatever.
Yeah, but to be fair, like saying Synth got you to bite insane. I'm about to like suck my own dick. Saying Synth got you to bite some like insane bullets is like very different from like vegan gains got you to. Like I don't think vegan gains is bad.
That's true. That's true.
He's not nearly as like pressing and aggressive and like I don't know what to describe it as. He's not like as likely to like try to lead somebody down like some like reductio or something they wouldn't even realize is there. Instead, he's just like doing the face value reductio, which is like, okay, you say that
vegan gains I think is decent at debate, but
he also debates the world's easiest topic, which is like, are we wrong on like, is it wrong to put animals into like Guantanamo Bay level camps where you rape them?
Yeah. So like I think I'd say that like, you know, he does well in debates. However, I would still like if I were to put him in a tier list, I'd still probably put him in like D tier because he has like the same problem that as someone like Darth Dawkins or Demon Mama, where like he can only debate one topic.
I think that's like that's a reason why I think somebody is like going to be lower, but I'd probably put him in B. I think when it comes to how he debates the topic, I think he does a much better job than like a Darth Dawkins type, who just kind of like
yeah, I'd put him in like high D or low C. I'd say like Darth Dawkins is like low D, Demon Mama's like low to mid. Because like
I'd probably honestly I'd
I'd put her higher.
C. Yeah, I'd probably put DM in C, and I'd put like vegan gains in like a B or something.
To be fair, when we did the tier list though, like C was like pretty good debater. It was like me and Hunter Avalone were in C. Yeah. So like
I don't think
it was like B tier was like B tier was like fucking Ben Shapiro who has media training. And I think we also put Hasan in there, but I would put him in fucking D tier at this point. After he got shit on by Willie Mac.
Willie Mac, he got fucking dumped.
Dude, he got fucking bodied by a fucking commentary YouTuber that doesn't even do debate. Yep. And it wasn't like it wasn't like Willie Mac was like egging him on and being like, yeah, you should debate me, pussy. And like he spent like 5 trillion hours preparing. Yeah. It's like no, he wanted to debate Willie Mac. Willie Mac probably didn't even prepare because it wasn't like he was good at debating.
I hope the audience doesn't care about us like rambling about like a debate, which debater is the best, and like how do we categorize them?
I mean, like me obviously, I'm obviously the best, you know.
Yeah,
it's so hard being the best.
That's how I feel unironic. The Super Smash Bros tier listing of debaters is like it's fun, but I hope the audience is bored and like or doesn't feel like or feels like we're getting too off topic. The the important part is like a summary of the case that Vaush is in fact sexually attracted to children is, I guess the biggest one is like he was caught with drawn child porn on his hard drive. Sampling of his hard drive is like out of the 8 images. I keep saying 8, but it's approximately 8 images. 2 of them were drawn child porn.
I think it's
and
more
like
than
he has a long
that.
history
Like
of lying. Yeah, maybe, yeah. But the point is like, he has drawn child porn on his hard drive. Plus his defense was really bad. Plus he has a long history of lying. Plus he has a long history of saying things regarding why it's not morally wrong to pay for child porn. All those things like as a cumulative case just make it like I actually couldn't even imagine what the stronger evidence would be as long as Vaush is like, I don't know, being no dumber than we already know he has to be being. The only other evidence I could imagine coming out about this would require Vaush to be like dumber than he is, right? Like it's like, oh, like he accidentally says in a debate or something, well, sometimes I watch child porn. What else could we have as evidence? What would be expected on the hypothesis that Vaush is? I don't know, what would be expected on the hypothesis that Vaush is like a really smart guy and is a pedophile? Like what kind of evidence would we expect? Well, it seems like we actually expect there being less than there is, right? We'd expect like, oh, he wouldn't accidentally show his. Given how smart Vaush is, it's kind of surprising he accidentally showed his porn folder, right? Like, I mean, that's not the kind of evidence I would expect.
I feel like, well, to be fair, like there are different types of intelligence, right? So like you could be like smart, like in some regards, but like really regarded in other regards, you know, like take me for example. Like I've said and done some really retarded shit, but I also have like, but I'm not like completely dumb, right? There are some instances where it's like, oh, okay, here's something I'm like kind of above average at. Like most people don't think about philosophy or politics as extensively as I do, right? So I guess part of it is like a hyperfixation thing. Part of it is just like the way my brain is wired. I don't know. It's like weird. I think part of it is an autism thing where it's like you're like really stupid sometimes and like kind of weirdly smart other times. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think the only kind of stupid here that's like relevant in the case is just how stupid with computers is Vaush, and like turns out he's kind of dumb with those. Which is why we ended up getting the evidence of like him accidentally showing his porn folder on screen that included drawn child porn. That's like the only reason we had that, because he was kind of dumb with computers, and like I wouldn't have expected previously for him to have been that dumb with computers. I know he's like not great with them or something, but like if I'm trying to think, given how smart Vaush is, and even in all the specific regards of how smart Vaush is, what kind of, if he's a pedophile, what kind of evidence would we expect? Like what kind of evidence would we need to say he's a pedophile here? Like that he could like is even possible that he'd slip up on?
I would say like if there was
what more could we have now?
I guess no, I guess I was gonna say more clear cut, obvious lolly, but I think after seeing the specifically the one image, it's like, okay, when you pointed out specific details about it, I'm like, okay, yeah, I think you're right. That explains why it made me uncomfortable. Because like for me, it was like I felt like I was insane for being uncomfortable, and I'm like, why am I uncomfortable? This is irrational because I can't point to anything definitive, so I'm not gonna base my opinion off of that. Especially because I already have like a positive opinion of Vaush, right? So I thought I was overreacting, and I'm like, oh, this is nothing. Even with like the horse thing, like I initially like, I think I just dissociated and glossed over it.
Yeah, here's.
Like I just didn't even. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, you go first. You go first.
Yeah, I was just saying that I think I just kind of dissociated and just didn't think about it at first.
So here's one piece of evidence that we haven't like at least presented here, right? That I think is like something that we would expect to exist if it's the case that Vaush is a pedophile, which is like before he got big as a streamer, he's probably more likely to be lax with the shit he says and more likely to say crazier shit. So like the kind of evidence that like we haven't gone over yet is something we'd expect is maybe before Vaush was like a big streamer, he was like saying crazy shit about the ethics of child pornography unprompted by a debate, right? Like he was just like saying it in Destiny's server, which he did. He said there's this Hawaiian. Have you seen the Hawaiian study message?
I've seen some of the Discord messages. The reason that I don't believe that is like the best evidence is because there's
I agree. The best evidence is sorry.
Yeah,
I agree.
There's like no way of knowing what the context
the best is he got caught.
Yeah, well, there's like no way of knowing what the context behind those are.
But there was a way for a very long time up until maybe like a few months ago when Destiny cleaned the server. Those messages were all actually still publicly available on DGG, and so I can shit,
really?
Yeah. So a lot of people have seen
a lot of people have seen the context.
Archived? I don't. Probably somebody has it archived, but I have no idea where to find it. But I can tell you, like firsthand, when I heard Vaush just said crazy shit in the Destiny chat, I decided like, okay, I'll look for around that time period and see if there's any more messages that are a little crazy. Turns out like, so the context of all of these just makes him look worse. So the Hawaiian study message is him saying like, I really wish that on my tiny stream I could get away with talking about this Hawaiian study that shows that actually turns out that sexual relationships with children seem to have no empirical relation to harm on those children, right? Like that was I'm paraphrasing the Hawaiian study message, but like that it's an accurate paraphrasing. If somebody wants to call my bluff or something, they can like probably find the exact copy of it. But the context of that was like just him shooting the shit with somebody about ethics. It wasn't like he was pressed in a debate or like he was he was saying around it like, oh, actually, I think that fucking children is wrong. He didn't say anything like that. It's just he's saying he thinks that there are studies he'd like to talk about that shows it's the case that child sexual relationships aren't bad for them, right? Which is like, why would you want to present that study, right? Unless you're trying to convince some people of the conclusion of that study, right? Why would you want to cherry pick that specific study instead of all the ones that show that child sex does cause them harm? What makes you want to cherry pick that one? Well,
I guess there would be a confirmation bias there.
Yeah,
Interesting.
confirms something.
We're gonna have to go over the fucking vegan gains debate. We're gonna watch the whole fucking thing.
It's worth. It's not. Yeah, the way he likes to present it is, I was saying other people's ethics are inconsistent here. No, the thing he was saying is his ethics is consistent here, right?
All right. Well, if it turns out that he was basically just lying, I'm gonna be fucking mad as like an audience member of his.
Yeah.
I'll be an ex-audience member at that point.
True.
Vaush vegan gains debate. Is it something that's still on YouTube?
Should be. I think it's on Vegan Gains channel. I know it's. I know it's on YouTube.
Is it called Vaush intersectionality debate from 4 years ago?
Yeah, probably. I think it starts out being about like vegan gains not liking intersectionality. Oh yeah, it's on Vaush's channel, debating vegan gains and intersectionality, veganism, and capitalism.
Capitalism. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So it is the first result.
Yeah. Yep.
He still has it up. Interesting.
Yep. Vaush is
nobody even bothered watching the debate. Okay.
Well,
I will admit that maybe
the people who don't like Vaush do bother watching it. if you're a Vaush viewer, you just take Vaush at his word, right? Like,
Yeah.
why,
well,
'cause why,
to be
you
fair,
trust him, right?
Well, to be fair, with like the way Ethan Klein talked about it, he definitely didn't watch the debate.
Oh, of course, yeah. Ethan doesn't watch it either. Ethan didn't do his due diligence. The
Yeah,
people who've done their
I
due
criticize.
diligence, yeah.
I will admit that I did criticize him for that, even though I also didn't watch the debate.
Yeah,
because I assumed that Vaush was being honest about the contents of the debate. Because it's like, okay, surely somebody would have, made like a video or something about Vaush being like, but here's what was actually in the debate if you actually watch it, and here's why this doesn't line up with what Vaush was saying.
Yeah, the people who I point to as examples of people who aren't going to be like acting irrationally on their judgment here, who I know Mal the Infidel watched the debate, right? I know that he came to the same conclusion, which is Vaush has been lying about the context. And I'll be honest, like Vaush did an excellent job gaslighting the audience because he did this really this neat trick where he like laid down another thing where the context actually does clear him, right? He said it like afterwards, and people pull that clip up and they bait themselves into like kind of getting fucked. You can even see like it's really funny. You can see like a grin like as Vaush realizes he has the opportunity to say it. You can see like a grin like spread across his face. It was super fucking.
Oh my
like
God.
he's got talent at gaslighting. It's like I appreciate the art. Okay, even though I think he's doing something morally wrong, I can appreciate the effort that went into
He's
the-
good at the art of
form.
debate. He's a good debater. He's a good rhetorician.
Genuinely, like it's one of the most impressive examples of gaslighting an entire audience that I've ever seen, which is like laying down a piece of bait content where actually you say a thing that looks fucking terrible, and then like in context it actually does clear you. Even though what people were initially talking about was the other thing, and now you can always appeal to that. Like, look, you're pulling this clip out of context. Like, no, the clip they're pulling from is the vegan gains one, and the vegan gains one is not out of context. You're saying it's entailed by your position, and you're going to be consistent that it's okay to buy child porn. And if you're lying,
Fembra wants to know if you can talk to Tipster about this if you can.
I'd love to talk to Tipster about it. Yeah,
Same.
I
DM'd Keffals, but she didn't respond.
Yeah, if I talked to either of those people about this. It's not the case for. I feel like the case at this point is like rock solid. Like it's not one of those cases where it's like the evidence is shaky. It's like, damn, we got like a fucking sampling of his hard drive. Like what else could we do at that point? Like what other evidence could possibly exist? I think about it, and like the evidence that could possibly exist happens to exist in this case. You don't get cases like that very frequently.
Interesting. I think I actually agree with you at this point. Again, I'm gonna have to watch the vegan gains debate on stream, but yeah. In terms of if I were to like debate Keffals or Tipster on something like this, I would definitely go for the approach of is Vaush a zoophile, simply because that's like way more easy to prove, in my opinion. Because it's like there's literally it's physically impossible to interpret it as not drawn bestiality.
Yeah, and I feel like the in the case of like is Vaush a zoophile, if somebody's like granting like yeah he is, right, at that point it's like what's really the actual moral difference between being a zoophile and being a pedophile? Why would it be what are they?
It's just one is like worse than the other in terms of the amount of harm it causes, but they cause harm for very similar reasons.
Of course, yeah. Any argument for why pedophilia is wrong is going to function as an argument for why zoophilia is also wrong. Like if I ask you, what's wrong about, and I say pedophilia, what I actually mean is acting on pedophilia, right?
Correct.
And that
Same
includes
zoophilia.
Yeah, and acting on it includes things downloading porn related to it. So the thing I would ask is like, what's wrong about the zoophilia there? Like, what's one thing that's wrong about it? People are going to answer things like, what's one thing that's wrong about like children there? And they're going to answer the same way they would for the zoophile question, which is, look, children don't have the cognitive capacity to consent.
Yeah.
Which is true for animals too. I don't know if we like. I think that animals, like, depending on the animal, they can be about as smart as a 3-year-old child. Pigs are about as smart as a 3-year-old. Cows are about as smart as a 2-year-old. Horses are about as smart as a 3-year-old. Right? Dogs are about as smart as a 2-year-old. Right? All these animals are like about as smart as like a really, really, really young child. So any argument for why it's the case, any argument that would justify that would also be an argument that would justify pedophilia. Like you could say there's more harms in the case of pedophilia, and I would agree with that. That's why it's worse.
Yeah.
But they're both. Any argument that shows one's morally wrong shows the other.
Shows that the other. Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And this was something that I was going to bring to Keffals' attention because, like, like when I DM'd her, I was like of the belief that okay, there's not conclusive evidence that Vaush is a PDF file, but there is definitely conclusive evidence he's a zoo file, and I was gonna use that sort of like analogy, and I'd be like, okay, so you're against lolicon, right? Like drawn CP. So if it's the case that CP is bad and you're against the drawn version of that, wouldn't it also be the case that you're against bestiality and therefore the drawn version of that?
Yeah.
Because it would be like a parallel. What would the symmetry breaker be? And they wouldn't be able to find one that's valid. All they could point to is, well, one is worse than the other. And it's like, yeah, but that's just talking about the magnitude of how bad something is, right? Like that's not like that wouldn't be the ultimate deciding factor.
Exactly. Like if saying one is substantial wrong and one is like an extreme wrong doesn't change the fact that one is a wrong, right?
I feel like
honestly,
I would have
I
feel like I would have a harder time debating like a lolly defender than that, because it's like okay, if a lolly a lolly defender is wrong, but they're more consistent, right? So like, whereas with somebody like Keffals or Tipster, it's like you can easily just point to like a blatant contradiction in their worldview because it is inconsistent, like in terms of how they treat the whole bestiality thing versus the lolicon thing. Like if their argument is like the reason Vaush is in the wrong, or sorry, is not in the wrong, is because it wasn't lolly. But if it was lolly, we would have dropped them as a friend. It's like, okay, what about the bestiality? What if there was bestiality, like drawn bestiality on his PC? Would you drop him as a friend then? If not,
well,
why?
there is.
Yeah, it's like if they're like,
if so,
and if they're
he
like,
has it. Yeah,
and they have admitted to not actually having looked at what the images are, and they'd be like, well, no, those are just anthropomorphic creatures, and then I can just be like, well, no, I've literally seen it. It is literally just a drawing of a horse.
Horses.
It's just horses.
And it's not like it's a drawing of like a cartoonified horse or something. Like one of these images is supposed to be like a photo real horse, and it's actually like credit to the bestiality drawer. It's very artfully done. Very impressive art, but it's obviously
it does require talent.
Oh no, wait, that's right. Fuck, the 4chan thread said this. That doesn't require talent. That's AI. Never mind. Okay. That's why it's so goddamn well done. Yeah, the two ones that look photorealistic are the two ones of the horse that look like photorealistic. Those are both AI. And people were roasting him for his bad taste in horse porn on 4chan.
Oh my god. It's not an issue that he has horse porn. It's the fact that it's AI. That's the real issue.
Exactly. Can't believe this guy watches AI swill. Disgusting. No.
What a degenerate.
Yeah, I'm sure the person who made this, the prompt was not like give me an like a human who looks like a horse, or give me like a furry horse.
Yeah, give me a horse, human mixed with horse. Yeah, I'm sure that was the prompt, and it just gave all horse.
It's like, oh, give you humans mixing with a horse. I got a plan for you. Here are two humans and a horse. No, it's like, yeah, it just looks like a normal horse. It's very clearly a horse. It's very clearly a horse. These are very clearly children. Anybody who wants to see it, there's like a reentry.org page, archived through a 4chan thread. So just dig up the 4chan thread on the Google caches and see for yourself. Control F in those threads for not reentry, Rentry, rentry.org, rentry.org, and then you can find it. I'm not gonna link it to your chat because it's child porn. And I would not like to do that.
Yeah.
I don't like my
well,
YouTube channel.
Well, thank you for coming on.
No, I enjoyed the discussion.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
All right.
Look, I enjoyed the parts of the discussion where I didn't have to like think about child porn too hard. I enjoyed those parts.
Yeah. No, I'm in a similar boat. I'm definitely in a similar boat.
All right. Well, you have a good one. Peace.
All right. Thanks, you too. All right. That was a good discussion. Yeah, I guess I did end up conceding my position. I wasn't sure what approach she was going to take going into this, but yeah, I just sort of went in like open-minded. So, yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's such a difficult thing to like if we're talking about like specific images, and it's like, how does your brain process certain information? If we're talking about like fucked up images, sometimes it just doesn't. I don't know. Like the fact that like I initially completely glossed over the horse thing and just didn't, like, it's like I was in denial about that. It's like, yeah, no, that's not bestiality. There's no bestiality. What bestiality? To be fair, that was when I saw like the screenshot that was like the 1080p screenshot of like what was shown on stream. But still, it should have been obvious from just that. It's like sometimes you just don't believe what you see. I think we all still need to hear the vegan gains debate. You are absolutely correct, and that is precisely what we're going to be doing, is watching this epic masterpiece of a video on the Vaush YouTube channel called Debating Vegan Gains on Intersectionality, Veganism, and Capitalism. Oh boy, I'm so excited. So, as far as I'm aware, veganism, the part with veganism would be the part where Vaush doofed it up, okay? He doofed it up again with the way he worded the argument. And by that, I mean, he said the thing that got clipped. And let's see why he got clipped. So, yeah.
Come up with an argument for why veganism is so difficult that you can't reasonably expect somebody to follow that.
No, veganism could be the easiest thing in the world, and I would still stand by this argument, because there are probably very easy ways that that most people could like reduce their carbon footprint or make the world a better place through their consumptive habits. You know, even if veganism was like an on-off switch, but it's not, mind you. I mean, I love me some fucking cheese and sour cream. Okay, that's my shit.
Look, do you
don't like eggs,
like? Are you understanding what you're saying? Like, you could literally make the same argument about child pornography. Like, okay.
So this is where it comes from. You could make the same argument about CP. So let's play this again. So what is Vaush's argument that could supposedly be made about CP?
But it's not, mind you. I mean, I love.
Hold on. Play it back.
Carbon footprint or make the world a better place. Veganism could be the easiest thing in the world, and I would still stand by this argument, because there are probably very easy ways that that most people could like reduce their carbon footprint or make.
So yeah, there are easy ways that you could reduce the amount of bad that you output into the world, basically, right?
The world a better place through their consumptive habits. You know, even if
through consumptive habits, right?
Veganism was like an on-off switch, but it's not, mind you. I mean, I love me some fucking cheese and sour cream. Okay, that's my shit.
Look, do you
don't like eggs,
like? Are you understanding what you're saying? Like, you could literally make the same argument about child pornography. Like, okay.
So, oh shit, okay. So again, this is Vegan Gains bringing up the CP argument, saying that because Vegan Gains is actually the one using CP as a fixed point that both parties agree is bad, or at least that's what's supposed to be the case. But what does Vaush do in response? That's what's going to be relevant here.
It's harder to find child pornography. Okay, you're gonna have to go on the dark web, find some pornography dealer, pay them a ton of money to like capture a child and rape them on camera, and like you're saying that you shouldn't have a responsibility not to support that.
Well, yeah, I don't think people should be held responsible for their consumptive decisions.
He actually bites the bullet. Oh my god. Jesus Christ. No. Why?
Moral level.
Even when it comes to jumping through so many hoops to pay for a child to get horribly abused just so that you can reach peak sexual arousal.
If I wanted to right now, I could like dig really hard on the internet and find a necklace made of blood diamonds that were procured through like combat between like warlords in the Sudan, you know? And I could buy that and nobody would call me a piece of shit for doing it. I'd just wear the necklace. It'd look real pretty on my neck. I
think most people wouldn't call you out on that just because they're unaware of where the diamonds came from.
Why not?
What do you mean?
Well, because how would you know that the diamonds came from something unethical just by looking at them? Whereas, like, if it's CP, like, you know that it has to be unethical, right? Because there's no such thing as ethical CP. It is possible, it is logically possible to have a diamond necklace that's produced ethically. It is logically impossible to ethically produce CP. That would be the categorical distinction, right? So obviously, people would not immediately call out somebody that's wearing a diamond necklace that was made unethically because you cannot know that it was made unethically.
Like, okay, if somebody's wearing a diamond necklace, you don't know if it's real, fake, if they're synthesized diamonds. So yeah, I'm pretty sure
the point that I'm making.
Where they came
Well,
from.
okay, we're venturing a little bit into hyperbole here because I'm pretty sure. Again, I don't know. I'm pretty sure it's pretty easy to buy child pornography on the dark web, so I don't know who's like going out of their way. Whatever the case may be, it just frustrates me that there are so many ways in which the things we buy and the products we consume affect the world detrimentally, but vegans are only interested in condemning people in this one way.
Not necessarily. Like, you can condemn people in multiple ways while primarily focusing on a specific topic or argument, right? Like, if that's like your main topic of discourse that you like to talk about, like that, like, oh, but what about the other things that cause harm in the world? Herder, like, that's not like a counter argument. That's just whataboutism from Vaush.
For this one like specific subset, you know, nobody does this for cars versus bikes.
The production isn't unethical, right? The product itself is. Well, for CP, it would be both, right? I think that the most harm would be caused to the child in the production, right? So the most I guess the most unethical aspect of it, right? Because it's not it can be multifaceted in terms of like, how is this ethically wrong, right? So it could be the case that even if the product was made without using children, that it would still be, the product itself is unethical, but that wouldn't be nearly as unethical as making it with children, right? So this is why, even though both lolly and CP are bad, CP is worse because it requires the sexual exploitation of actual children, right? That would be the main categorical distinction. Even though they're both bad, they are different levels of bad.
Nobody goes around looking at people with cars and goes like, you really could have gotten a bike. Do you have any idea how much damage you're doing to the environment? Not just in the construction of that vehicle. Do you have any idea how much fucking pollution is being thrown out through the exhaust? Nobody does that. We recognize like, oh, maybe that person just has a long commute. Maybe that
CP itself is by nature unethical. That's true. That is true. And I agree with that. But it's also the case that it is logically impossible for the production of it to be ethical as well. So it's I wouldn't say it's unethical just by nature. I would say it's unethical because it leads to harmful outcomes, right? To everybody involved, basically. It's going to be a psychological net harm to the person consuming it, let's be real. But more importantly, it's going to be a very detrimental psychological net harm and physical net harm to the children that are involved in it. So no matter what way you put it, isn't the production the act of it though? What do you mean by that? I guess, but well, no, because if we're talking about the product itself, right? Like let's say it's like a video, right? That the product is an MP4 file, right? But the what was done to make that product, right? There was like a process to that, right? Rather than just the product itself, right? So there is there is a production process to making a video like that, right? Now, even without the production process as a part of the equation, the video would still be bad, right? But the production process of the video makes it even worse. So you're saying it's natural but illegal? Who, me? Did I say that? I'm so confused. I don't know what the fuck you're trying to argue.
Person just likes having a car they can blast music out of. We don't really give them shit for it. But we can all agree, whether we own cars or bikes, that things should probably be done about pollution, about global warming, about the auto industry. That's what I want to see done with veganism.
Okay, I see two issues here. I can agree with you on some level, but I see two big issues here. For one thing, you're treating all of these things as if they're equal. Supporting a Holocaust, supporting horrible child abuse, like literally child rape, is not the same thing as buying a car or buying a T-shirt. So
We have
I think it's
support- wait,
totally.
we do support
well,
the
well, no,
Holocaust.
listen. Well, no, listen. I think it's totally.
Yeah, I hope that Vegan Gains makes the same argument that I'm about to make, which also is something that Synth mentioned. But yeah, once again, like, if we're talking about child labor / child exploitation, like, it's going to be the case that child labor, like, if you don't buy a product because it relies on child labor, like, this doesn't like actually like this has no benefit on the children that are required. Like, they just end up going broke and dying of starvation instead of working in factories. So it's a lose-lose in that situation, right? Like, you're not increasing the amount of harm.
Totally unreasonable to claim that, yeah, supporting some crazy ongoing Holocaust of animals or supporting the rape of children is the same as buying a T-shirt that was made in a sweatshop in India. I think that's insane.
Wait, why not? We're literally
Obviously, we need to normalize AI in the film industry so they can leave the real kids alone, I guess. No. You're misunderstanding. I'm saying that even without the production process required to make CP, it would still be wrong, but that the process required to make it makes it even worse. So this is why, again, lolicon is bad. It's this magnitude of bad. But actual CP is not only just bad, but it is a greater magnitude of bad because it causes more harm, right? So that would be like, again, you can make a categorical distinction between two things while acknowledging that both are bad. It's just that one is bad to a lesser extent than the other, right?
System of global capitalism is literally keeping hundreds of millions of human beings in squalid poverty. That's more suffering than that's more suffering than the literal Holocaust committed. And we keep that in part because we sustain the capitalist system that fuels it.
Look, I would disagree with that. I'd say the amount of suffering created in the animal agriculture industry and the amount of suffering and injustice that happened in the Holocaust is not equivalent to the issues with worldwide poverty that's being sustained, because of the systems you're mentioning.
I mean, millions die from malnutrition,
well,
from a lack of access to like medical care. All of this is being done under the watch of systems that are perfectly capable of sustaining the livelihood of these people. We do it.
This is not an argument against veganism, though. This is just whataboutism. What about all of these other problems in the world? Yeah, what about them? That's not what's being discussed. Fixing these issues are not mutually exclusive. You can address more than one issue at once. And, like, is that really that okay?
Do it because it's more profitable to do it, and it's more profitable to do it because we buy T-shirts from T-shirt companies. Again, it's myopic. It's in the same way that you believe veganism should be open to everyone, not just people who are on board with intersectionalism. I believe that systemic critiques of society and the problems with our consumptive habits should belong to everyone, whether or not they themselves are capable of or willing to abstain from certain consumptive habits. And
first of all, not all harmful consumptive habits are equally harmful. And secondly, again, like I already explained why the whole CP thing is disanalogous to the child labor thing. I do need to go to the bathroom, so I will be pulling Hasan. I will be right back. And yeah, sorry for pulling a literal Hasan Piker moment. Oops.
it's weird to me that I get basically woke scolded, which is what's happening right now by you and my chat, for not being vegan from people who will readily and willingly admit that they do other things they could have avoided doing that also hurt the world. It's weird. Like, this is
okay. Well, that's another point I was going to get to. My second point is that you're going to have a difficult time actually proving, because this is going to be a topic of contention, that buying at least certain products from certain areas with a certain supply chain is demonstrably going to have a negative impact on the lives of people who are in that supply chain. Whereas in the animal agriculture industry, with 100% certainty that you are actually contributing to making something worse.
No, I would strongly disagree with that. I mean, I'm an anti-capitalist. I think funneling any money into a capitalist system is unethical because I don't believe wage slavery is ethical.
Okay, well, wait a second. I don't even understand what this has to do with capitalism. Like, you're basically saying any exchange of goods, essentially, is
in a capitalist system, because there's wage exploitation.
Why?
A portion of the wage,
Well,
the surplus labor, the surplus value gets exploited. It gets taken by the owner. I think that's an unethical process, and I prop it up when I buy things from capitalist industries.
Okay. The issue is, though, like the same sort of exploit. Well, look, the issue is you can still have exploitation in a socialist or communist system.
Yeah, but not that form of exploitation. Wage slavery wouldn't exist.
Okay, sure, maybe not
socialism.
that form. Okay, well, maybe not that form of exploitation. But I'm sure you, sorry, I'm sure you could have other forms of exploitation. So, again, this doesn't even have anything to do with capitalism.
Okay, so I'm starting to see why Synth says that Vaush is not actually a utilitarian. Like if he's saying that, that participating in a capitalist system is inherently unethical, is not utilitarian, right? Like it's going to be the case that if it is inevitable that you either participate in capitalism or don't participate at all, you're obviously going to want to choose the lesser of two evils, right? So like if you live in a society, right, it's either participate in capitalism or starve and die, right? Like the better, or maybe I guess if you want to frame it this way, the lesser of two evils would be participate in capitalism, right? That wouldn't be unethical. That would be the decision that you would make that would maximize utility. So that would be the most ethical decision you could make. That wouldn't be unethical. That would be the opposite. Chair stream, hell yeah. Cute outfit, why thank you. Yeah, this is my outfit today. I thought I might wear it. Oh my god. I really am starting to grow boobs, Jesus. Ooh. Sorry. Dumb. Hot? Why, thank you. Do you think that the controversy did or should ruin Vaush's life or career? Did possibly. It did possibly. At least. Maybe. I don't know yet. It's too soon to tell. Should it? I don't know. It's definitely bad. Like, he's definitely not innocent, but I mean, I am all for second chances, so yeah, anyways. OMG, you are for real? Hell yeah.
Well, no, it does, because that's the reason why I say it's unethical to buy anything from a capitalist industry. It's because of wage exploitation. Whereas if it was socialist, it would be ethical because in that respect, the wage exploitation would no longer exist.
What happened to he was innocent? People can change their minds when presented with new information. Like, that's something people can do. You know that, right? Like, I don't know. What new info? You can rewind the VOD. Just rewind the VOD. Everything you do in capitalism reproduces capitalism. Everything under capitalism is immoral. You can do whatever you want under capitalism. Yeah, no, it's fucking stupid. Like, if there's no alternative to working within the framework of capitalism, like, the best thing you can do is participate and try to change the system so that it's a better system. So, yeah, I don't know. Like, damn. How is capitalism immoral? Look, we're not going to get into the capitalism versus socialism debate. I don't think that, like, being a okay. Like, for instance, you know what? No, we're not going to get into it. It's not just that, like, capitalism as a concept would be immoral. It's certain things that are entailed by capitalism that I would consider immoral. Things that are, like, consequences of it, right?
So my argument would be less sound if we lived in a socialist society. I'll admit that.
Capitalism is better than monarchy. Okay, that I agree with. It is better than monarchy, but that's kind of a low standard.
But right now, every single dollar I put into any industry will invariably go to people who have the class interests of you and me opposed diametrically to their own, assuming you and I are proletarian. And I think that's unethical. So I could inure myself to the inescapable immorality of buying anything in this system, or I can recognize that it is possible to at once fight for systemic change while wallowing in the consumptive habits that you would like to see others stop. Or, as someone once put it, there is no ethical consumption under capitalism.
This is a terrible point from Vaush. yeah, it's all bad, so it doesn't even matter. You may as well just buy CP because all consumption under capitalism is bad. So you may as well just never do what an actual utilitarian would want to do and propose as the solution, which is the most morally correct action and minimizing harm and trying to maximize good.
Oh, okay, even given that, this argument you're creating still doesn't really make.
What is the objective standard of what moral? Whoa, did you just make a moral subjectivist argument? We got to debate that at some point. Ooh, boy.
Make any sense? You could still have exploitation with some sort of transaction of goods.
Oh, well, sure, but
So
not
I'm
intrinsically.
still. Well, what does it matter if it's intrinsic?
Because then it's possible to have those exchange of goods without there being that oppressive element. Like right now, if you bought from a worker co-op, I don't think that would be inherently unethical. Because the wealth would be distributed equally amongst those who work there, not to some owner.
Okay.
I mean, I agree.
still-
I want to see the
literally
world rid of meat farming just as much as you. I just think that people shouldn't be.
So then why would you increase the amount of meat farming? Like, as a utilitarian, if you agree that the way meat farming is done is bad, and there is an easy and a direct way that's like unambiguous, it's not complicated, to reduce the amount of meat farming, which you agree is bad, then why would you not do that if you're able to? Like, okay.
Be too selective with which consumptive habits they condemn other people for and which consumptive habits they brush over.
Okay, so I'm still not understanding how this even matters with regards to capitalism. Because again, the argument I'm making here is that just because you're making some sort of exchange in goods, that doesn't mean automatically you're going to be ruining the life of somebody else.
No, not
whereas in
intrinsically.
whereas in the animal agriculture industry, you absolutely are.
Well, no, because in a capitalist system,
Even
it is
under
intrinsic.
even under capitalism, like this is another issue. Like you're equating all forms of injustice, like even wage slavery, even unequal pay. You're equating that to
I'm not equating
really
all, though.
torturing and murdering animals.
Well, no. I mean, I don't want to like the idea that like capitalism begins and ends with people not being paid as much as they should is not the case. Again, a third of the world is kept in perpetual poverty, and it's through the IMF and World Bank, which are the capitalist arms of the Western world. These are very substantial problems. Not to mention the wars we wage. I mean, God, Coca-Cola just with the death squads and
Someone's asking why I would insert myself in the troll community. I don't really insert myself in it. I just sort of like keep an eye on it every once in a while. Like, I don't know. I'm kind of like a quiet observer. I don't know. I didn't expect anybody to like even notice I was there, to be honest.
Colombia. I mean, there's so much. The argument that I'm making fundamentally is that So in regards to the capitalist issue, wage exploitation or surplus labor being extracted from the laborer is when you work a job and you produce $15 worth of widgets during the time that you work, you're paid for 10 of them. 5 of those dollars worth of value gets extracted from you, gets thrown right up to the owner, or to the manager, and then to their manager, and so on and so forth. There's a chain. But it gets taken from you. And I think that's a form of slavery. You're not really getting the...
We do digging, no one is safe. Oh no, shiver me timbers. I can't believe you would do digging and inadvertently give me 5 trillion hours of watch time in the process. How could you do this to me?
You're getting expropriated. You're not really getting the full compensation for your labor. It's a pretty fundamental element of anti-capitalist critique. I think it's essentially tantamount to slavery.
Frankly, I'm insulted that you ignored me. I just want to be your... I'm sorry. I don't read every chat message. Look, I'm... Sorry. Hence why you have cat ears on in your parents' house contemplating goon material instead of working your hands and leaving a genetic mark upon the world in a way that actually matters. Bro, what? What does that even mean? What? Okay. You read the all? Also, hello, Drabby. Welcome to the stream. Oh my god. What is going on? I think I've I think I'm being raided by some random shitters. Bro, these people are fucking... Bro, don't talk like we not BF. Not you, Drab. There's like random people from a server like a Discord server I never fucking use. Apparently, there have been people A-logging me from there. It's really weird. It's like, okay, I guess you can do that. I am a public figure, so I guess I can't really stop them from A-logging. You know, A-logger's gonna A-log, but you know, I just think it's a little bit strange. I didn't know I was so interesting that I was worth A-logging. Yeah, people are weird. Am I even in that server? Or did I leave? I should probably leave that server. A lot of weird people in it. Alright, yeah, I'm fucking fuck that shit. When's the last time you took a shower? This morning? What, is that supposed to be like an own? Alright. What the fuck are people... Okay. Alright, this is getting a bit much. I think okay, mods, if they're being like too annoying, feel free to ban them. I'm not gonna be looking too much at chat. Like, I don't care. I'm not interested in having a cesspool. You have how many videos dealing with haters? What in the shit grammar? I don't know. Like, I don't need these people for content anymore. I think that I already have, like, enough of a... Yeah, I don't know. It's like, I don't need to scrape the bottom of the barrel for content anymore. I think I'm past that. But yeah, if people are saying, like, really weird shit, like, you can ban them at this point. Like, I don't care. Like, if they don't contribute anything... Anyways, let's continue. Sorry, that was a fucking distraction. Shouldn't be getting distracted.
Though admittedly, much better than chattel slavery. I got it, like, you know, I'm not drawing an equivacy between those two. And anytime you buy anything from any capitalist firm, you are contributing to that process because that's how the money rolls there. It wouldn't be the case at a worker co-op because it would be distributed evenly amongst those who work there, but worker co-ops are pretty few and far between.
Your argument seems to boil down to we can't get rid of all forms of exploitation, so therefore I have reasonable grounds to support one form of exploitation.
But don't you realize that's already coming from a point of bias? You could say the same thing about cars. What if I was an anti-car advocate and I wanted the car and bicycle thing? I would be making the same argument to you, wouldn't I? You would be like, oh, well, you know, sure, okay, cool, you don't eat animals, great. But what about the car? Like, what you're saying, what you're accusing me of doing essentially is whataboutism. I'm saying I don't have to do good here.
I like how Vaush accuses him of whataboutism while literally doing whataboutism.
Because there's so much bad everywhere. I'm not saying there's so much bad everywhere, therefore I don't have to do this good thing. I'm saying our entire lives and every element of our culture is saturated in harm when we make consumptive decisions. And for that reason...
And why not reduce that harm?
You should. It's a good thing too. I just don't think you're a bad person for not doing it. And
I mean, it could be the case that you're a good person and that you cause more good than harm, like as an aggregate, right? But you still shouldn't do the bad things, right? Like you can still make like a prescriptive statement morally. But okay.
And if you were walking down the street and you had $100 in your wallet and we passed by a homeless person, I wouldn't give you shit for not giving all 100 of those dollars to the homeless person, even though they sure as shit need it more than you do. That would be a good thing of you to do, but I wouldn't give you shit for not doing it because I recognize there's a difference between doing good and being obligated to do good.
Okay, I sort of get what Vaush is saying, but like, yeah, I don't know.
This is sounding very close to an appeal to futility.
No, it's not that it's futile. I want to demolish the meat industry and capitalism. Those are both two essential pillars of what I'm in favor of. What I'm saying is that you can't morally...
But this dichotomy doesn't exist, right? Like, you don't have to destroy the entire meat industry to go out of your way to not make the problem worse. Again, like if you increase demand by buying meat, you're also increasing supply, because as demand goes up, supply goes up. And how does that supply, where does the supply come from? It doesn't just appear out of nowhere, right? The supply has to come from somewhere, right? And there's no alternative that would be, like, again, like the alternative is, oh, there are less animals that are basically just forcefully raped and then slaughtered, right? So you would just be decreasing the number, which would be a net good, right?
Impugn people.
Well, you know what? Let me just make it very simple for you. What is your excuse for eating meat?
I don't need an excuse for eating meat. Do you need an excuse for not giving the homeless person $100? You're a pretty successful YouTuber. I'm sure you have spare money you could be donating to charities right now.
Not
Do you
right
want
now,
to
I
make
don't.
excuses for that?
When's the Pie Girl video coming? I'm not sure. I may or may not do it. But I'm mainly focused on the Vaush stuff because that's like what's big right now. Is every person who eats meat or contributes any exploited practice knowingly or otherwise morally a bad person? Not necessarily. Once again, like, you can be a good person that does bad things. Like, that's not logically impossible, right? It could be the case that you eat meat, but that you do other things that are good, that benefit society, that make up for it, right? Yeah, I don't know. That's my take on it. Like, it is. I think that most people can at least agree that it is, if nothing else, morally preferable to not eat meat. It's more of a matter of whether or not it is A, morally obligatory, and B, how preferable is it, right?
Yeah, well, not right now, I don't. And I do occasionally donate to charity. They're mostly animal charities.
Was it really necessary of you to buy that expensive chair you're sitting on right now? Those headphones are nicer than mine. I'm wearing $6 earbuds. Do you have excuses for why those money didn't go to people here? Like, you could do this forever.
Okay, well, look. Well, no, again, you're equivocating. Like, you're making... This is just... Like, again, you keep making this false equivalence that every single action you do, it could be optimized in some sort of way. Therefore, you don't have to optimize any
I'm
decision.
saying there's a difference between doing a good thing and being morally obligated to do a good thing.
And how do you make that distinction, Vaush? I'd like to hear an explanation.
I think it's a good thing to be vegan. You think it's morally obligatory to be vegan, in that I'm a bad person if I don't. But you and I both agree it's good to donate to charity, but we don't think it's morally obligatory to donate every spare cent you have to charity. We recognize this distinction in other respects. A lot of vegans don't hear.
Okay, well, look, I think that's because we value our own personal freedoms, and even if we have this idea that we don't just live for the well-being of others, we also have to respect our own personal wishes. But there's limits to that. When your own personal actions have such a negative impact on other people or beings around you, that's when your own personal freedoms come to an end. And what you're doing here is saying, okay, well, if you're going to criticize me for buying meat, well, okay, I could criticize you for buying that pair of headphones. You could have bought a tiny little pair of earbuds, and that would have, I don't know, spared somebody slave labor in some other country.
You could have literally saved like a dozen people's lives with the money it took to buy those headphones.
Whatever. The thing is,
exactly.
No,
we need to work
no.
on breaking down the system, because fuck it, whatever, dude. I can't optimize every single personal consumptive decision I make to optimize well-being. We wouldn't expect that from anyone else.
That's right, but it's like, look, veganism is so incredibly easy to do.
It doesn't matter how
look,
easy it is. It would be easy to give the $100 to the homeless person. It'd be the easiest thing in the world. You're so ripped, dude. You could literally flex the wallet out of your jeans pocket. It'd be incredibly easy for you to do so. But I wouldn't call you a bad person for not doing it. Again, this is why we agree on every prescriptive judgment. I'm so in favor of every judgment vegans have about the world, and I argue about this all the time. I want the meat industries. I would support eco-terrorism against them. Put the CEOs in there, and everything else is TOS. Okay. I'm so on board with it. I just think.
But why does it have to be all or nothing? That's what I don't understand from Vaush. Like, he acknowledges that, like, it would be preferable if these industries didn't cause harm, right? But you can still reduce the amount of harm, right? Like, even if it's just slightly, like you're still doing a good thing, right? Like, again, it's not like super black and white, but
it is hypocritical to selectively decide which elements of the consumptive process you're going to morally impugn people for, and that's it. That's the only difference that you and I have. But
well, what do you think you would be selecting it based on, right? Like, it would be about reducing as much harm as possible, right? Maximizing good, minimizing bad, right? So, like, for instance, like if your clothes are made in sweatshops, not buying them doesn't actually reduce harm, right? Like, as we've already established earlier in the stream, right? However, not buying meat does reduce harm towards animals, right? So that would be like the argument there.
we will still fight towards the same goals. We still agree fundamentally on the same points.
Obviously, he just doesn't want to stop eating animal products. Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, if he was like, you know, I know it's morally bad, but like, look, I'm just addicted to eating food, so I'm going to keep doing the morally bad thing. It's like, fine, whatever. But it's like he's basing his ethics off of what he descriptively does, even though ethics are not meant to be a descriptive claim of what people currently do in society. It ought to be, it's about what people ought to do, ideally, in the most optimal situation. That's literally what ethics is. You shouldn't be basing your ethics off of what you currently do. But that's what Vaush is doing here, is he's starting from a conclusion that benefits him personally and working backwards with his ethical framework, not the other way around. And that's the problem.
Okay, so if this were like, I don't know, 200 years ago, would you say the same thing about the African slave trade?
The only, and I think that's a good counter, the only differentiation I would make there is that I would not fault someone for buying a slave. I would fault someone for owning a slave. I think that the consumptive decision is...
What? For buying a slave? Not for buying a slave, but for owning a slave? Wait, what? But if you buy the slave, don't you then own the slave because you bought them? I'm sorry, I'm fucking, maybe I'm retarded.
Moral rebuke. The decision to keep a slave, however, continues that process. The ethical thing to do there would be to buy the slave and then in the next moment free them, or something like that. I think that's where it falls apart, because it's after the point of consumption, the harm continues with slavery, because they're...
Then you'd be against animal agriculture.
I am against animal agriculture.
Well, then you'd consider it a moral obligation to be against animal agriculture.
I do. I think it's a moral...
Because
Yes, I think
exactly...
you're a bad person if you're not against moral agriculture. Just not being vegan.
No.
He won't answer. What won't I answer? Something about a child mod. Are you talking about like, there's like one mod. I think he's 16 or 17. I'm 19. He sometimes shows up on stream and bans retarded people. Oh, they're calling you a child mod? Oh. No, Hoopty Scoopty's an adult. The youngest mod I have, I think, is 16 or 17. He's not even here, though. But yeah, the reason I give him mod is because he's, like, super active. He shows up a lot anyway. So...
Based on the argument you just gave, you would be morally obligated to not support animal agriculture.
Yeah, I don't. Except for consumptively.
Well, you do.
Well, consumptively, yes. In the same way that I would support slavery consumptively, but not in any other way. Because you'd free them right after you've consumed the product, so to speak. Okay,
so if we were to turn... So if in a hypothetical reality where we were using black people as meat, what would you say then?
We always gotta get so grim.
No. Let's cover that.
Like if it was the same thing, like with animals.
Yeah, but if we had fields of black people, and once they reached a certain age, once they were nice and big and meaty, we killed and ate them.
Yeah, I'd still buy that fucking. I'd still buy that dark meat from the supermarket. Yeah, it's the exact same thing. I think that animals are morally equivocal to people. Yeah, I'd be a hypocrite if I said otherwise. White people too. Get that fresh. Both cuts.
This is what I mean when I say that Vaush just bites insane fucking bullets. I guess this would be a reason why I wouldn't use this as like further evidence of Vaush being a big bad PDF file, because it seems like he's just willing to bite dumb bullets. However, this could be evidence that Vaush has lied, depending on how this compares to how we framed the argument.
Okay, that's that's like Destiny level of insanity.
No, I just don't
Wow, Femyoz is doing child endangerment. What the fuck? It's so true. I gave somebody a blue wrench mark. Oh my god.
think people should be. Wait, you say that, but you buy stuff from industries that literally like have slave labor. You buy stuff from industries that profiteer off of wars. Like Coca-Cola literally ran death squads in Latin America. Have you ever bought a Coke? Well, I don't actually. They're probably not vegan, right? So
I actually don't buy soda.
Okay, that's soda. I don't like soda either. But like if you bought a Coke anytime over the past decade, you're literally funding people who are paying death squads to run around, gunning down like labor organizers, so that Coca-Cola can continue to get its like low fucking like bargain basement cost of.
Okay, and what's the alternative? The laborers don't have the labor jobs because supply and demand decreases, so then they starve and die. Oh wow, you did such a great thing there, Vaush, by not drinking Coke. Incredible.
Of harvesting.
Okay. So here's the issue I'm seeing. You're basically saying you're guilty of every. You seem to make the assumption that you're guilty of every single transaction. Every single monetary transaction you make. So if you gave somebody $5 for a hat,
panel time? What are you talking about? I'm so confused.
If that person you gave $5 to is putting that $5 towards slavery or uses that $5 to fund a death squad, you are now responsible for that.
No, that's your position with me. That's not my position. I don't think you are. I don't think you're morally responsible for for your consumptive decisions.
Okay, well, that's weird. Your explanation, it sounds like you want it both ways then.
No, I think that we do horrible things with the dollars that we spend, all of us, and we should work to collapse those systems. However, again, no ethical consumption under capitalism. There's no way to live life ethically under the system.
Oh my god. Yeah, but you can live... Yeah, but it's not either ethical or not ethical, right? Like, that dichotomy doesn't exist, right? Like, you can still reduce the amount of unethical things you do, even if you live within an unethical system. Like, that's not logically impossible. What?
Unless you want to go become a woodsman or something. And even then, you'll probably fuck up somehow. You'll probably have to eat animals if you're a woodsman, right? Unless you get a farm started real quick. Whatever the case may be, I think it is good to fight against these bad things. It's
Chim, I'm sorry. I just don't recognize you. I don't let random people call in. No offense. So I feel like there's like a 75% chance you would just say the N-word, which, don't get me wrong, that would be very funny. It's one of the funniest words of all time. Unfortunately, that would not be good for my stream algorithmically, and I would be very sad. So unfortunately, it appears I cannot allow that to happen.
Always good to maximize well-being.
I promise I'll behave. Yeah, that's what they all say. They all say, no, I'm not gonna say the N-word, and then as soon as they're in the call, they're they're very eager to say things that aren't very advertiser friendly.
I don't think it makes you a bad person to not do so. For the same reason I wouldn't impugn you for not spending more money donating to fucking whatever. I don't donate any money to charity. Fuck it. I'm way too paranoid about one day losing all of this. And nobody calls me out for it. I get called out for eating meat once a week though. It's very strange to me. I don't know. We share so many of the same goals.
I'd love to discuss modern Marxism. I'm probably not the person to I'm not like an expert on the topic. I'm sorry. I'm sure you'll find somebody to discuss this topic that is of such great interest to you, though. You're just gonna have to keep looking.
Okay, well, I think the reason people are calling you out for eating meat is just because, again...
That paranoia panned out. Yeah, I will say that aged kind of well. He is focusing on good or bad person dichotomy to avoid the ideas of becoming a better person. Yeah, exactly. It's like, well, I'm a bad person already, no matter what. So I may as well just do more bad things because it doesn't matter or make a difference. But that's like the most anti-utilitarian position ever. Like, utilitarianism is not, well, if you can completely eliminate harm, but if you can't completely eliminate harm, just don't worry about it and don't even bother thinking about it at all or doing anything to reduce it. That's like the most anti-utilitarian position ever.
And they don't equate every single financial transaction as some sort of act of cruelty or exploitation. And on top of that, I don't think they accept the idea that every transaction you make somehow harms someone else.
Only in the capitalist framework because of wage exploitation. I don't. I mean, there are people who don't believe, like people like Destiny, for example, who don't give a fuck because
Of course he brings up Destiny.
they don't believe that animals deserve any kind of like ethical rights. You know, that you should be
Yeah, that's a fucking retarded position.
able to just murder or beat or torture animals all you want. They deserve no moral consideration. That's a
Is that actually Destiny's position though, or is this a straw man?
moral framework that would allow you to like not be a vegan and for it to be perfectly ethical. Like legitimately, if you just don't give them ethical consideration. Now, I think everyone does, whether they know it or not. But I think you're in the same boat. You're kind.
Does Vaush think it wouldn't be morally obligatory to buy a Coke to free 10 child slaves if you could? You know, you would think that by his own logic, he wouldn't, but because he's a utilitarian in name only, and he's actually a threshold deontologist, he'd be like, well, because it's like the enough bad that would be prevented, then you would actually have to do it. I think the trolls or whatever just came from like this one Discord server. There's like this person called Music Biz Marty, who's like known for trolling Cyrax, who's like a weird pedophile lolcow person. And I joined his Discord server because I don't know, I just wanted to see what was in there, and then I forgot about it. And then like out of the blue, like I got like 50 notifications from people pinging me. I'm like, what? Why? I've said like a total of one sentence in this server. I'm really not that interesting. I'm sorry. But the premise seems. Why do people require you to buy a Coke to free them? You're not you're not engaging with the hypothetical. I gotta say one thing though. While I ran away from doing the dishes, this did not convince me Vaush defended CP and tried to hide it. It did convince me he's so debate-brained, he will argue himself into a corner just to avoid admitting his worldviews and make him a hypocrite. Yeah, no, I agree. I think I might actually start to disagree. I think I actually kind of disagree with Synth's characterization after seeing this, because Vaush is just arguing like a retard in this. Like, his position is so incoherent that no matter what he says, it's not going to be exactly the same. Like, if he's, like, summarizing his position or whatever, or, like, what he was trying to argue, like, there's no... Because he argues things that are completely illogical, and just based on whatever he feels like saying, like, I don't know if that would be... I don't think it's dishonest. I think he's just dumb. Vegan Gains could have done so much more to corner Vaush. Rip. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just thinking more like, wait, what is the actionable connection here? Yeah, but like, okay, but like the whole point of the hypothetical that was laid out of, okay, if hypothetically not buying a Coke magically saved or freed 10 child slaves, and you know they you know got a good education and lived happy lives, right? Like the whole point, and this is similar. I guess a better example would be the drowning child example, where it's like, is this a moral obligation, right? So like, for instance, if there's like a drowning child, and nobody is saving them, and you can go jump in and save them yourself, are you morally obligated to do so? Any actual utilitarian will argue yes, right? Right? So it could be the case that like that situation isn't your fault, like you didn't cause the child to start drowning, but it's also the case that you're like, it's still a moral obligation because you can save the child and you're just letting them die for no reason, right? And you could argue, oh, but I don't want to get my clothes wet. It's like, okay, but the harm caused by your clothes getting wet is not even close to being comparable to the amount of harm that would be caused by the child drowning and dying, right? Again, this is like a very basic utilitarian argument that you could make.
Kind of like Destiny in that respect. You don't see the fundamental harm that is done to the world by propping up the capitalist superstructures we live in, because that's just not. It's
I
not
never
a
said I was
consideration.
pro-capitalist.
Well, no, but to the extent that I am, I imagine I'm more anti-capitalist than you, at least judging by the arguments that we're making here.
This is literally just a dick measuring contest. I bet that I am more anti-capitalist than you are. It's okay.
I'm not exactly sure on that. I think
Like, it's so irrelevant to the actual proposition over veganism.
capitalism is sort of a part of an evolution to a better monetary system.
Socialism.
But like with things like automation, capitalism just isn't going to live forever. I think technology is just going to make the idea obsolete.
Uh-oh. Are you
So-
a Yang fan?
I don't totally agree with everything he says, but he does.
I like how somebody in chat says, why do you pretend to be an intellectual dressed as a mockery of a woman while dressed as a mockery of a woman? I'm glad you clarified. I'm glad you clarified. While dressed as a mockery of a woman after saying like dressed as a mockery of a woman. I was corrected. My typo. Guys, chat, I was corrected my typo, okay? I was corrected my typo. You gonna get hung up on that? Hung up on what? I was just corrected my typo.
Does make a good point about universal basic income.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'm glad, fuck.
Chat, I thought we already beat the diaper allegations. What is going on? I thought we beat the allegations.
Capitalism. I'll agree with anyone who doesn't like capitalism. Whatever the case may be.
Well, look, I
Except for
agree
Nazis.
with you
Nazis
that
don't
it's...
You have no response, so you fixate on a typo? What am I responding to again? Like, there was no argument made. Like, if a retard is berging out in chat, like, what? Okay. Anyways, I'm not gonna get too derailed.
Capitalism.
Well, look, I agree with you that there is a level of exploitation with every transaction you make within capitalism, and just inherently, it's a mathematical certainty that you're going to have poverty under capitalism.
Why'd you leave MBM's Discord? Because you people are fucking freaks. I wasn't active on there. I literally joined it. I think I sent one message in the general chat one time. And then, like, a week later, I have, like, a bunch of random A-loggers saying really weird shit. Giving me watch time. But, yeah, I don't know.
So I think it's kind of stupid. We could do better than that. But, yeah,
Why are you scared to join? What if I just, like, don't care? I'm sorry. Am I supposed to care? Apparently so. Femyoz, why don't you join this VC you don't give a shit about? I think you do a lot. Yeah, no, I care so much about some group of people that I've never interacted with before and know nothing about. But also the Vaush community is very sensitive right now. You'll need some rabid defense, and you'll also see literal Nazis jumping on the discourse. Makes sense. The fur eaters say you do. Oh, that's so true. They have a mind of their own.
I think we'd agree there, but
Well,
just see
fuck yeah. I mean, it's
capitalism
more radical than fucking most people are. The only, I understand, like, these arguments get lost in the weeds really quickly. The only point that I'm really, really adamant about making, it's not that appeal to futility, the world is terrible, there's no point in trying. It's only that in most
But that was Vaush's argument.
instances, people assign no moral value whatsoever to one's unwillingness to engage in consumptive behaviors that
Personally, I was keen on joining that Discord server, but the raid here has me reevaluating that position. Yeah, normally when I join a Discord server, I don't I don't expect people to like be really fucking weird. I don't know. I mean, I get it. Like I'm a public figure or whatever, but I'm not like famous. I'm like pretty unknown. Bro, I'm not rejoining the Discord. Fuck off. You're weird.
That would increase well-being. So spending more time to buy the couch that wasn't made by the company that did this, spending more time to buy the food that wasn't farmed using migrant labor, finding all the little ways to optimize your consumptive decisions to make the world a little less shitty of a place. Nobody will call you a bad person for not doing that. Nobody will. Absolutely nobody. Now, people will say you're good if you do those things. They'll go ahead and say, oh, that's very nice of you. You shop conscientiously, blah, blah, blah.
Okay, again, what if there's a drowning child? Is that just like a nice thing to do, or is that morally obligatory? Once again.
But no one will condemn you. But vegans will condemn you. They'll say you're
okay, and I would condemn you for not saving the drowning child in the example I laid out, right?
a bad person if you don't, well, if you're not vegan. And I agree, you're probably a bad person if you don't believe in animal rights. You're probably a bad person if you don't believe in ending
Wait, Vaush, this is like completely antithetical to consequentialism. Like whether or not, again, if the morality is contingent upon your actions rather than your thoughts or intentions or whatever, right? Like your thoughts and intentions are merely a predictor for actions, right? Like any utilitarian is going to agree with that, right? So whether or not you're a good or a bad person is going to be contingent upon what you output, right? Not what you think. You can think whatever you want. That's a morally neutral action, right? Like thinking something in of itself, at least in a vacuum, is morally neutral. Again, the reason it matters is because it outputs actions. Again, this is like this is utilitarianism 101.
The meat industry and what have you. I want those systems gone. But in regards to the other examples I gave, like
look, if you want these systems gone, then why would you support them?
Well, I mean, I want like capitalism gone, but I support it too.
Well, dude, that's a bit different. Like, I mean, you're living in the real. There's practical issues. Like, okay, it's kind of.
I mean, again, the lesser of two evils would be participating in capitalism as opposed to starving and dying. Like, if those are the only two options, like, that's like pretty obvious.
Unreasonable to expect you to go totally homeless so that you don't support capitalism.
I could support less unethical industries, probably.
Well,
yeah. That you probably could.
Well, here's the thing.
If you don't care, then why did you leave? Because it's just kind of a waste of my time. I don't know. People are kind of creepy.
It's very easy not to support the animal agriculture industry, and you're making it seem as if all of these. No, it is. Okay, well, do you want to try?
Oh, no. Well, it doesn't matter to me. Again, even if going vegan was the easiest thing in the world, so was giving money to the homeless person.
If you want to spin people from the Discord watching into a positive, you should set up a StreamYard. Bro, what? No, I think I'm good. I just don't care. It sounds like a lot of work.
Your pass, but we still don't.
If you can donate $2,000 collectively, I'll consider it.
You people for not doing it.
No less.
Okay, well,
so it wouldn't matter how easy it is, but it's not easy.
Well, wait. The difference there is you're helping someone, whereas the difference with the animal agriculture industry is you're just not promoting that suffering.
Okay, well then I think that's a meaningless distinction. The positive and the negative, preventing and
I'm the one hiding them all. Yeah, I'm like barely. I'm like occasionally glancing over at chat. I don't know. Eventually they'll realize I just don't care. Like if you, oh my god, I think that the issue is that they're all super late to this. Like if they had found out about me like 8 months ago, like that's like when I used to do call-in debates. You know? I guess you missed your opportunity. Better luck next time. I will say that I might do call-in streams at some point, but those are going to be far and few in between. Why not do it again? Because they're fucking cancer. People just say like the same boring shit. Like, okay, like the first time someone, you know, hops in to say the Keemstar word. It's pretty funny. That's some good comedy, right? Maybe you weren't expecting it. Second time, give you a pass. Third, fourth, fifth time, and anything beyond that, it's like, okay, I've heard this one a million times.
Enabling harm. Well, then you could say like, oh, I'm not actually hurting anyone. I'm just buying meat that's already dead. But if you want to maintain that distinction, then fine. Buying a Coca-Cola, which goes towards a corporation that funds death squads. I mean, we don't morally impugn people for buying Coca-Cola.
That doesn't. Well, no, that doesn't make any
Okay, but what are the outcomes of that, right? Like, again, you're a consequentialist, Vaush, supposedly.
sense. That's like saying, oh, well, I'm not paying for murder when I pay for a hitman.
Well, I don't think we're paying for any of it because I think we're absolved of the responsibility. I think it's always frustrating me because I feel like when I talk to vegans,
It might be better to wait for later, when she'll be less distracted by watching stuff. That's a good point, I think you should just keep giving me watch time and wait for the right opportunity. I think that'd be a great idea.
we're in agreement on every single judgment, conceivably, and we always end up walking away angry at each other. And it's so frustrating. I just want us to be friends, vegan gains.
You want to fight me in a cage?
No, you're much larger
I'm just
than I am.
joking. I'm just joking.
Dude, I'm not in the MBM Discord anymore. I left. I was in it for a week, and now there's like a bunch of weird people here. So I don't want any part of this. You sent money bag emojis, but where's the money? I don't see any Streamlabs donations. Link in the pinned message and the description below. But oh wait, you're not gonna do that.
I think people just expect me to say that by now.
Again, $2,000, and I'll consider it.
All right.
Okay, well, you know what? I'll say this. I think it is still a topic of contention that certain monetary transactions you make, like buying a t-shirt, I think it is still a topic of contention that you are necessarily contributing to harm. So
the money bags represent the watch time, but you're already giving me watch time by waiting for me to join your StreamYards thing or whatever the fuck, which I'm never going to do. So if you're constantly waiting for me to do the thing that I'm never going to do, then you just stick around forever. It's great. It's wonderful. Whereas if I did what you asked, once I finish, it's like, oh, well, what's the point,
I
Yeah,
think that's
so
sort of
anyways.
a debate for another day, and actually ask yourself, is messaging me on Facebook where he wants to have a debate on that.
But the discussion with him went the same. I have to talk to like an anarchist vegan or something, and I'll probably get mad at them because I want my cheesy bits. All right, listen. This is actually an infinitely more productive and decent and level-headed conversation than I was expecting.
What is even happening? I don't even know.
All right, well, at least that's good.
All
And
right.
hey, man, like, look, going vegan is really fucking easy, and there's personal benefits too, dude. Like, if it stops animal deaths, if it makes you healthier, if it makes you happier, it makes you feel better about yourself, why not do it?
All right. I don't disagree with
dude,
you. There are a lot of
dude,
benefits to veganism, and reciprocally. Yes.
Well, dude, you've got me on Twitter. If you ever need any help with like vegan dieting, if you want to transition, I'm right there.
Gotcha. And you know what? I'm throwing it back. Likewise, remember, friends, intersectionality is the lens through which we will be able to combat the systemic injustices we face on a day-to-day level.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd say that Vaush lied about his argument here, because it seems like he didn't really make one. Yeah. I don't know. It's kind of hard to say. I think that I genuinely think after watching this that like maybe he's not, I don't know. Not that he's not smart, but that like he's oftentimes quite retarded. Yeah, I don't know. Unless I missed something. Yeah, I don't know. His argument is that vegan people are annoying. Yeah, but whether or not they're annoying isn't what determines if they're correct. Like you can be you can be correct and also annoying. Right? So that wouldn't be like the best counter, I guess you could say. But yeah. Damn. I think perhaps if you talked with MBM, your chat issues might go away. Did Music Biz Marty talk about me? That's interesting. Music Biz Marty. Music Biz Marty arrested. Music Biz Marty face reveal. Did he talk about me or some shit?
Greetings. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody.
What is this?
Priest and Father Jim.
No.
You gotta do that kind of. If they all
No.
died, God has done
No.
more for me.
Yeah, no, he doesn't talk about me. Lame. You baited me. You know, I got real excited. You know, thinking that my favorite YouTuber, Music Biz Marty, was talking about me. But unfortunately, it appears that he didn't. I'm so sad. Is that Music Biz Marty? Yeah, maybe. Maybe he just sounds really similar. What if it's a different person? What if Music Biz Marty died? That'd be really sad. Yeah, anyways. Not probably fake, yeah. You know, it's crazy how, you know, AI voices can, you know, really make you think that a person who isn't there is still there. I mean, hey, people still think that Cyrax is alive. He died ages ago, and, you know, there was like an entire funeral, and people think he's still alive because of how convincing the AI is. Happened to chance, yeah, literally. That's what I was talking about. You know, it's like it's not even just the voices. Like they have like entire animations, and it's crazy. You know, and you know, you just have to wonder, like, how many people are still alive? What if Cyrax really did kill Music Biz Marty like he said he was going to? And you know, I think that it's very likely. You know, he's a tough guy. You know, he's got a lot of energy, and you know, I think that you know, there's a good chance that you know, Music Biz Marty, that the one that hosted the funeral for Cyrax, wasn't even the real Music Biz Marty. You sound like you'd love Moth Style's disc. Who is Moth Style? Or maybe CVG, they love femboys. I'm sure they do. Vaush agrees like this. Probably fake, doesn't sound like him. Yeah, AI is like that. You know, it's crazy what AI can do. Lots of wacky things. Anyways. I think I'm gonna end stream soon. I could go over. Nah, I don't want to keep going too much longer. Wait, did Music Biz Marty's channel get deleted? Or something? Is this... I'm so confused. This isn't the same channel. Okay. Why did stream end? Didn't even finish the Vaush vid? Well, we finished the part with the veganism debate, which was like the important part. So we didn't have to watch the outro where he's like, anyways, thanks guys for watching. Make sure to smash like and subscribe. Speaking of smashing liking, fuck, I'm retarded. Speaking of smashing like and subscribing, be sure to do that, I guess. Maybe, probably, I'll bet. That'd be very cool and epic. Anyways, you're not a real fan if you don't watch all the video? Shit, I've been exposed. I guess I'm a fake fan. Tragic, I know. Yeah, anyways. I also need to add timestamps to this VOD. So whatever's going... Yeah, I don't even know what's going on. Where'd all the haters go? I don't know. I think they disappeared. It's kind of weird. I don't know where they went. Anyways. You're only a real fan if you have long rotary blades, the ability to spin and accelerate air. This is true. I can confirm that this is absolutely the case. Very accurate. Anyways, what the fuck even was this? This is a really... Oh my god. Really weird stream. Really weird stream. It did not go how I expected. Got some strange individuals that decided to stop by. And you know what? There's something beautiful about that, you know? Sometimes you get people from all sorts of different places, you know? Anyways, what the fuck even was that? Holy shit. I'm a big fan of fans. Yeah, me too. They're pretty cool. You know, they oh my god, what the Jesus Christ. Sorry. How much for that OnlyFans? $50 a month, no less. I don't... Fair warning, I don't have any content on there. It's literally just a picture of iDubbbz. So, if you want to pay for a $50 picture of iDubbbz, onlyfans.com/Femyoz. Yeah, anyways, I think it's gonna do it for the stream. Wow, 50. It's a really good picture of iDubbbz, don't worry. Yeah, anyways, I think that covers everything I needed to talk about. I'm fucking... Oh, God, I still have shit I have to do after streaming, so... Yeah, anyways... Bye. I'll see you all in the next one. Unless I die in a tragic house fire or some shit. Yep. Anyways, bye.